So, this morning, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, all glories to the Vaishnavacharyas and those who are sincerely trying to serve them. The topic we are discussing today is the implication of fear in our life. It's a very interesting topic, and it is connected to our research on the OIDA Therapy, which is the therapy of researching the very being of thinking and believing. Because thinking and believing is very much united. As soon as you think, you come to a certain conclusion, and that is what you believe. Because it's never sure that it's what's the real thing. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitramitamutamam, that he's giving the highest secret of truth. He's giving the king of knowledge and the king of final conclusions. Like there's so many truth elements in this room which are not very significant, but they are true. So, just like I say, this little shawl hanging from this column is needing to be ironed. This is a relative, but also true impact according to the certain type of expectation. So it's we are moving in the world, in the relative world, the relative and the absolute. This is such an incredible question we always have to focus, because we get enamored and sidetracked by the relative, but we are concerned and we need the absolute. So we are therefore by our own four imperfections, we are always in some doubt about life, in some doubt about things, doubt and fear about things to do and things not to do. So this is the test. I just came up with a sentence this morning which will never complain, appreciate and be grateful. Life is an uncomparable learning experience. So we are all in this learning experience. We are all facing the difficulties for learning from them. And we are all in that same situation for the reason which Lord Krishna knows better than you, the absolute and the relative. How much are you going to give of your energy to adjusting the relative? How much of your energy you are going to give to reach and understand the absolute? So this is really the key question of life, and this key question can only be answered by the truth, by the divine truth, by the absolute truth. Because only the absolute truth has the absolute permanent well-being in consideration, whereas the relative truth has only some relative circumstantial situation in consideration, which is actually and finally to be ignored. The absolute is only, the relative is only to be taken into consideration in temporary relative circumstances, whereas the absolute has to be taken in consideration always. It's a permanent consideration because it is a permanent impact, a permanent foundation of your progress. Whether you have a pimple in your face or you don't, that's not an absolute consideration. But if the pimple becomes bigger and bigger and turns out to be some big sore, then you have to take care of it. It's not that you're going to ignore it. But you're not going to write a book about every pimple and every little soreness you got on your body, right? But you can write a book about healing. But when you write a book about healing, you should first also question what is the reason to become sick. And then you should write a book about how do we get out of sickness altogether. And then you will find out that of all the sicknesses, they finally lead to death of the physical body. So you have to go to the next subject, what comes beyond birth and death. So let's forget the pimples, but let's focus on the absolute, on the search of the soul. So here we talking today about fear, and I know this is not going to be very conclusive to a certain degree. It just will show you how OIDA Therapy approaches fear as an instrument for gaining strength in our faith. You evaluate your fears, you accept them or you reject them, you assimilate them. Fears are blocking the normal functions of a human being, the development of a human in his activities. It is blocking the functioning in here where we are and now what we do. Thus basically the adequate way of being. So we are not independent of fears. We are guided and we are attacked by fears. So we have fear of the past. We have fear what will come in the future, which we are uncertain of. We feel fear to be excluded from a majority. We feel fear not from being able to harmonize how we make money and with our ideals we have, our values. We are fearful that people may leave us who we love or feel attracted to. We are fearful that we may not come into the right situations. We are also feeling fear that we may show our weakness, and therefore we try to show as we know everything and we are perfect, and thus we are living a lie. Then we have fear of becoming ill. This all results in a rigid personality, a highly compromised way of living, which is basically against our individual development, but does not contribute to solving our underlying problems. Properly, it is also possible to go deeper into this subject so that we can learn from it and that we can focus on what tendency in our modern society exists which create more fear in us, which lead us the wrong way, which make the people so afraid, and which are easier to understand and to control, and what are the natural inherent fears of this existence which have to be focused on in order to come to higher conclusions. So this is just an introduction. The next moment we will start analyzing different types of fears. And they are coming to us today in the form of a questionnaire, and I will simply give small comments on the different types of fears and what do they indicate. Do they have something to do with the relative, or are they coming from the side of the absolute? Therefore the questionnaire is, do you have excessive or insufficient fear? Do you think the terrorists are a threat? Governments are making us very afraid of terrorists today. But in the year 2006, in the whole world, only 300 people were killed, apparently connected to terrorism. Another 600 were claimed to be related to terrorism, but questionable circumstances, making this the number of killed people in the world connected to terrorists in the last year, 900 people. In only one city in Colombia, Medellin, in the months of December, drug-related crime kills 1,000 people. Very dangerous people, the terrorists, aren't they? No, very dangerous are the people in illusion, the egotists, the cheaters, the manipulators, those who are against Dharma. They are dangerous. Terrorists, this is simply an advertisement to extract money through the fear instilled in people. Just an example. Do you think that all are against you? This is a fear which comes into our existence when we are on the relative platform of egotism, wanting to be recognized and feeling threatened that we are ignored, minimized, or not given a special position. So, when we think that we are persecuted or people are against us, this is simply an indication of our own false values which we have set for our life. Because actually, according to Srila Maharaj, nobody's against nobody. Everybody's just preoccupied about himself. He said that nobody's even the enemy of anybody else. You think you have an enemy? Oh, what a proud person are you. Why? Because you're not important enough for anybody in this planet to make you his enemy. Only if your way somehow or other crosses over their interests, and so they feel that you're an impediment or a threat to what they're trying to accomplish, then they may treat you as somebody they want to avoid or eliminate, but just in order to accomplish their thing, not because they really want to pay attention on you as a person, say, oh, here is my enemy. No, everybody is so much infatuated with himself that they don't even have time to consider others enemy. So to think that others are against you is just another explosion of your ego. Do you feel that injustice is happening to you? Now this is a very interesting fear which comes from the karmic circumstances. Now we will have to come to that again and again, because on the absolute realm we see there is a world which is called a world of action and reaction, and that whatever you do brings about some type of reaction. So therefore it is kind of natural that things happen to you which maybe should not happen by some impartial consideration. But karma is not impartial. Karma is your portion which you deserve, and it is impartial on the absolute level because karma is there for everyone, but when it hits you, it's because it's supposed to hit you. So if you think there's injustice in that, it means you're just questioning the validity of the absolute system which is in absolute functioning and which doesn't ask for your permission to come into action. So it's not very good to be fearful that injustice happens to me, because you know you just go ahead sincerely with your life and everything else will come as it is meant to be. You just follow what your ideals are, what your guru tells you, what is the indication the best to do, and then you will be fine. Next question. Do you take pills as remedies for problems without a doctor prescription? Some people are so afraid of diseases that they're always carrying amount of pills and this vitamins and this one and that one. They're going in the pharmacy and they're asking, do you have anything which stops my aging? And then they go, oh yes. Now they take anti-aging pills, and then of course they cannot sleep so easily, they take sleeping pills, then they take wake up pills, then they take pills for everything. Oh, I'm going on a journey, I may get a headache, so let me take some painkiller pills. And like this they are throwing all kinds of pills, even though the doctor has not told them you have to do that, because they are pills which may be just necessary for some precise illness which you have, which we are not touching upon that. So this fear that you will be attacked by something, and therefore you should always have some pills to take in, that is an attempt of taking control of this material world. This fear is indicative of not trusting that what comes to you is supposed to be experienced by you. Like sometimes a pain, for example, is a great lesson. Pain is not necessarily negative. Pain is a warning. If you're always in anesthesia, you never feel when you're getting sick. It's no good. Like there's a fan, so I'm unconsciously putting my hand there, and as soon as the finger gets hit by the blade, I go, oh, thanks. If I wouldn't have felt it, I would have put my arm and cut the whole arm off. So the pain in the finger was a good warning. So pain is not something which is necessarily negative. It may be very helpful. If I have some emotional pain, it may be because I have to learn something. I have to deal with the subject and not just ignore it. So pain is also coming from the absolute, but it is also functioning in the relative field. So we should not be afraid of whatever has to be learned. Do you fear insects without seeing them? You know, some people, they are so obsessed. Is there any bug here? Is there? No. Maybe mosquitoes. And they, everywhere they go, they are bug scared. And then they go and they spray around everywhere these heavy poisons so that no bug will come close to me. But the poison is much more dangerous than the bugs. And then you're breathing the poison and you're putting the poison on your skin, which also seeps into your system and gives you trouble by leaving residues in your tissues. I mean, so this bug fear is also something like, it's a big ego thing. Nobody has right to interfere with my well-being. So anybody which buzzes, flies and crumbles around is supposed to be killed, so that it cannot come into my area of interference, you know. So this type of fear is really like, it's obviously relative, because you may spray as much as you want and you may kill as many bugs as you want. When the mosquito bug is supposed to get you, he'll get you. You won't get him, he'll get you. So finally, why bother about it, you may say. But the thing is that this fear is like this existential fear, that something may interfere with my happiness without my permission, so I want to be the controller of that. So this fear is actually an absolute challenge towards the Creator, and it is very silly. we should accept even the things which are not so pleasant in life, because they're going to come anyway. Now, I'm not saying you should sleep without a mosquito net. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying you should not be obsessed with trying to control which is uncontrollable, which is action and reaction. And you should just act with all your consciousness focused on the priorities of life, which is the absolute sweet will, which will help you to understand that you are a servant of the truth. You're not the controller, you're not the enjoyer, you're not the proprietor, but you are a servant of the truth. And that faith to be a servant of the truth is your healing path. We want to be healed, but we cannot be healed when we are full of fears of relative elements beyond our control. This will just drive us mad, like Howard Hughes, who was one of the wealthiest men in the United States and who lived in a bubble which would not allow a microbe to come in. Every air, everything would come into his little specially constructed hermetically sealed environment, was going to be first antiseptically treated and sterilized and whatever you can do with water and air and anything, to make it like, oh, now it's plain, natural. And he was so miserable when one reporter asked Mr. Hughes, of course through a window with a microphone, says, "Are you happy?" He answered, "I'm the most miserable person. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do to make myself safe." Because he had so much money, so he was afraid, I'm going to die and it's going to stay here and I'm going to be gone. So this kind of silliness accompanies our relative life. And therefore, it's very important to question what are the real, valid, bona fide priorities. The next question is, of course, this question here is for self-evaluation. I'm just giving a few comments on here. Do you fear that nobody likes you? This is something while people are making so much effort to dress nicely, to learn a lot, to paint themselves, to cut their hairs in a particular way. They want to be likable to others, no? So, like the Rastras, they never comb their hair, and others, they want their Sika to be 1 meter long, so they really look far out Sika, and like there's the most, one is afraid that one is not liked by others. So this fear is actually a positive fear, because according to our spiritual teachings, in the face of that you serve God by serving others, so we should in one way or another serve other people to make ourselves dear to them, but not liking so that they will submit to our sensual or egotistic plans. No, we should act in such a way that we are pleasing to the Absolute and not obstructing others and even helping others. That is very desirable, it's very good. So if you have a fear that nobody likes you, there's a certain virtue in that fear. It can help you to become more aware and more conscientious. Oh, I have to do also things for others. I also have to make others happy. And of course, if you make others happy, then they will also like you more. Then if you expect to be liked without having done anything for others, well, that depends on the adhikar or the spiritual realization of the other person. If that other person is highly realized, he likes everybody, so you are benefited as well. And if the other person is an egotistic person who's just thinking about himself, well, he most likely don't like anybody, So of course he won't like you either. So this idea of wanting to be liked is really something which should be directed to the Absolute platform. because we should be liked according to the sweet will of the truth, the benefit of everyone. Next question. Do you think that without taking vaccinations, you'll get sick? There's a great fear instilled in this world that you have to give shots to the children against polio, against this, against that. You want to come to another country, tropical country, yellow fever shots, cholera shots, malaria shots. So people are quite afraid about their health altogether. And they think, let me take the prevention shot. But let me tell you that more people have died of those shots, as far as the statistics is concerned, than the people have been cured or avoiding the disease to come. Because disease is also something which is part of the karma. And this vaccination programs around the world is one of the big mafias of getting funds from the government. So it's not such a black and white thing that maybe there is sometimes for some person a recommendable vaccination. I don't want to go absolute here, but in general people are just scared. And I know one person, he took all the vaccinations you can get and he came to Vrindavan and he left his body here. From exactly the diseases he had been vaccinated not to get. So it is not something, you cannot get vaccination security for your life. Otherwise you would ask, where's the anti-death vaccination? And that is only in the holy name of the Lord. Because then you go beyond birth and death by the grace of the Lord. This is like a higher spiritual dedication which gives you. But otherwise this fear which is instilled in people and taking vaccination, that's an exaggerated propaganda which is simply utilizing your fear of giving up your comfort and your life. Do you feel sure that you forget what you learned when the test comes? People are very anxious in learning things, especially when examination comes up in school. And then they are so nervous because they're sure, when I finally need it, I won't know it, I won't know it, I won't know it. And so they get so scared that when they need the information, they really forget it. So one can become obsessed with fears because one is obsessed with the result and one is not obsessed or one is not trying to become a good valuable servant. When you're really enamored with a topic, you don't forget it. When you really feel something is important. So we should focus on the important things and not on the things which are not important. So if you're fearful to forget what you learned in a test, that means you're attached to the results and not to the essence, which is serving and executing our things in the most appropriate way. So, and what is that? Finally, what you forget and what you don't forget is not in your control. That is a question also of prayer. If you're really deep inside believing that there's a guide and a help from within, you know, if I'm supposed to remember, I will remember. If I'm supposed to forget, I will forget. And Lord Krishna in Gita, he confirms that I give memory, I give knowledge, and I give forgetfulness. So that fear again is a relative thing which is basically based on one's own lack of understanding of the meaning of one's activities, one's services. And the next question is, do you pray not to be hit by an accident? So people are afraid something may happen. So they are praying, my Lord, make sure I'm not getting hit. So they're afraid that the karma may hit them. And then they want to cut corners and get rid of the karma or something. Or they don't believe in karma and they think it's all accident. Of course, if they don't believe in karma, then how can they believe in God to pray to Him? So it's a bit ambiguous situation, but many people pray, please cure me from that, protect me from that, do this, but they're not praying, oh my Lord, please let me become an instrument of your love. They have not developed to that. They are just saying, oh my Lord, prove your divine existence by protecting me. And if then anything happens, they go sick, they say, oh, maybe God doesn't exist. He didn't protect me. He didn't give this. So they're not facing the real trial of life. Therefore, to pray or to be afraid of accidents like that, no. Rather, you should be careful in everything you do, and specifically be careful not to do things against the absolute interest and the well-being of others. Do you pray in moments of apparent danger? Well, people often don't pray at all. Some people even say they don't believe in anything. But when there's a big danger, something like, it looks like hopeless, I've seen people pray who normally would say, I don't believe in anything. So this with the prayer is something, it's connected with the heart and divinity and our religious upbringing or what we have learned. Anyhow, at least when there's danger, you pray. That's the beginning of your path on faith. Means a little faith was there. Otherwise, why should you pray when the danger is getting high? So there was a little faith. You just ignored it. You didn't cultivate it. So in that way, we can say a little fear may be helpful, because there's a description given that some people, they serve God or they try to study about God because they're afraid of what happened to them if they don't. Then other people, they direct their energy to God because they're feeling attached to do the good thing. They want to do the right thing. Whatever the right thing may be, I want to do it. So they follow, not because they're afraid, but because they love to do their duty. Another person is doing the spiritual activities and approaching God because he's attached to God. He wants to be with God and his sweet will. And another person, the most advanced, he's so much in love with God that he does everything as he can understand God wishes to be done, as he has been taught. So he's very developed in his faith, to the point that he's filled with love. So in this sense, to pray in the moment of danger, it's like an initial stage of theism. And in that sense, it's also helpful. And we may also say that's why there are dangers. That you can understand you are helpless. You have to take shelter of a higher power. Because in the end, you are not the controller. You're not the controller of anything. And is there anybody above you who controls? That is the one to be contact. And that is faith. This is the path where we should deal or direct our focus. Who is there beyond me, who sees me, understands me, can guide me, can protect me? That is the one who is in the absolute. Whereas in the relative, nobody can protect you, nobody can save me from danger. Like for example, if the airplane is shaking in a big storm, you don't pray to the mechanic. You don't pray to the pilot. You pray to the one who is beyond the physical laws, that he may intervene and save you. So, we have to understand the connection with the unlimited sphere is simply part of our life, because we are actually part of the unlimited conscious world. Because your body is limited, but your consciousness is going beyond the physical death of your body, and that is something which we can understand by carefully asking ourselves these questions about our fears. Therefore, the discussion of fear is actually very helpful for us to develop our OIDA, awareness of having a clear idea in what we can and should believe. Next question, are you afraid in the dark? When you cannot see anything? Oh, now I don't know where is the scorpion. I don't know where is the snake. I don't know where is the rubber. I don't know where is the hole. I don't see anything, pitch black, dark. Are you afraid there? Or can you just sit down and chant Hare Krishna peacefully? Say, okay. Can you accept now things are beyond my control? Of course you can touch. You can touch, but touching is dangerous. You may touch into the electric grid and get electrocuted. So even touching is not so safe in the pitch dark. So are you afraid in such a moment? Or can you then understand, okay, it's dark now. Now let me rest here and establish my relationship with the Absolute, with the eternal luminous one, with the one who sees everything out of his own light. Because when it's pitch black dark, you can see my eyes aren't too valuable, at least not at this moment. So darkness is the opposite of light. As a matter of fact, darkness is the absence of light. So in the moment of darkness, we have to consider how wonderful, how full of grace is light. So then you understand when the sun is rising in the morning, this is Krishna, Surya Namaskar. My reverence, my gratefulness to this beautiful, beautiful sunlight which lightens up everything and makes us live and see and go towards the real meaning, the absolute of our existence and of everything. Next question. Do you believe that you should have a weapon to protect yourself? There's a big industry out there called armaments. You can buy anything you want. You cannot believe it unless you're an American. Because the Americans, a private person can buy a helicopter, can buy a tomahawk, can buy leftovers from the military industry. They have auctions, sometimes a little hidden, but people have gone and bought different parts and built themselves a full helicopter. What to speak of simple handguns, machine guns, automatic rifles, hand grenades, landmines, anything you want to get, it's there. On the official market or not, go to the black market. On the black market you get anything and everything. Missiles, if you want, they're also for sale. Do you need a missile? Long range, short range? How far do you need to send it? So people in the spirit of being afraid have become the mad pushers of the military industries. Always thinking they'll be safe by being armed to the teeth. You know, the Rambo guy with a knife in the mouth and 50 guns hanging all over his body. The guy can't even walk by the weight he has, but he moves as a movie star very, very easily. So, and of course he has a telephone in his shoe and poison in his ring and his glasses are good for killing as well. Everything is arms, So, and then he thinks, oh yes, now I'm very safe because I got a lot of arms. Just like the woman in the kitchen, she's very safe because there's so many kitchen knives at her disposal. So anybody wants to come and give her trouble, she's armed. No, that's a joke. But the people are really, really in the spirit of arming themselves. And that means they're so afraid. So they think, I get an arm, I can defend myself against my karma. The arming business is totally in the relative realm. Because last not least, we are all under the influence of the higher laws. Now you may say, but what about the Kshatriyas? Kshatriyas also have arms, those warriors of the Vedic times. And there were arms which are very powerful, Brahmastras and the Gandiva bow, such things, glorified weapons, because they were exclusively utilized to defend the justice and the protection of the innocent. So the Kshatriyas in this way, they did have their Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda is the science of defense of the religious principles. So they were training up in different arms also, but nevertheless, as we see in the battle of Kurukshetra, the protection is not with the arms, but the protection of the soul on the absolute is to be with God. So Duryodhana, he wanted to have Krishna's army and lost. And Arjuna, he wanted to have the Lord himself and won. Well, who won? The sweet will of God will always win. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the face of the Vaishnavas, have given us the best of all arms for the best of all protection, and that is the holy name of the Lord. In Kali Yuga, the best protection comes from that weapon called japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because if everybody was going to be chastised according to Manu Sanghita today by the Kshatriyas, that would be a great destruction of human beings according to their karma, but very little mercy. So in Kali Yuga specifically, the Lord has come to give us help to get out of the difficulties in this world, and therefore the chanting of Hare Krishna is very, very powerful. Even I know many stories where devotees have been saved from very extreme, dangerous situations simply by chanting the holy names. Anyhow, this is a separate topic here. Now we are more here studying the impact of fear. The next question is, do you fear to miss out on something while doing other things? Like sometimes we do one thing, but we think maybe I should be doing something else. I'm reading a book and I think maybe I should read another book. I'm talking to one person, I think maybe I should stop talking with him and talking to him instead. So when we are fearful that we are not doing the right thing, it's most probably because we are not doing the right thing. Because we should do and think everything according to the relationship with the Absolute. As soon as we are doing things only in consideration of the relative, we are bound to be wrong. Everything is bound to be wrong. So, therefore this fear is also a natural fear which you have when you're in Maya. You're not doing the right thing and something makes you uneasy. Oh. I'm doing this and it's working, but I'm feeling uneasy. So this fear, this inherent fear is coming from not being connected with the Absolute. So it's also a positive fear. So you can see some fears are ridiculous. They're indicative of our obsession with the relative. And some fears are positive. They indicate our need of taking shelter of the Absolute. So you can see that fear personified in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that the chanting of the holy names of the Lord is so powerful that it will even conquer fear personified. Then somebody asked Srila Maharaj, what is fear personified? And Srila Guru Maharaj answered, fear personified is the fear of a devotee that even though I'm doing this service, my attitude is probably so bad, so lousy, that Srimati Radharani will not accept me and not accept my service. She will not consider that I'm doing it seriously and that I'm qualified to serve her forever. So she will reject me, and I'm very afraid of that. I'm afraid that my devotion is not genuine, and that fear personified in a devotee can only be conquered by taking shelter of the holy name and by saying, oh my Lord, please let me become an instrument of your love. So it has to be very deep. So this is like you may say, the highest level of fear, or the fear of not being properly connected to the Absolute. And due to that fear, chanting the holy name with real endeavor, with real anxiousness, with real tears in your eyes, which are saying, oh my Lord, I'm doing all these things and I'm still full of lust, still full of hankerings for material things, name, fame, glory, the same old story. I'm working hard like an ass for nothing more but grass. And I'm missing out on the real thing, on the real connection, on the real love. Radharani, please save me from my obsession with the relative and make me attached to your service to the Absolute, and let me become a little help in this, so that you will drag me along towards the eternal realm of service and love divine. Do you always count the change when you buy something? Are you afraid to be cheated? Do you mistrust everybody? Or do you sometimes get the change and just put in your pocket without counting it? In the material world, there is something called vipralipsha, the cheating tendency. And we see that is very prominent, because people cheat each other left and right over small things, middle, big, anything. Cheating. Cheating in so many ways. And making scandal if they can't cheat you. Like the rickshaw drivers often, after everything is finished, just in order to try to get a few more rupees, they try a scandal, because they know that most people don't like the scandal and they prefer to give 5 rupees more. So they try the scandal system. In the cheating world, there's many systems. Every industry has its own lines of cheating, and it's just like that. The biggest cheating of all is politics. They cheat from the beginning to the end. So the question, are you afraid that you're going to be cheated? Or do you trust? If you don't count the change and just put it in your pocket, means you trust the person. Oh, he's not a cheater. So this is a relative consideration, but it also means that there is some trust in others. Love and trust. Of course, love and trust doesn't mean we shouldn't keep nice accounts, no? They say also, clear accounts maintain the friendship. So, but still, if I'm not trusting anybody, it's also indicative that I am not a very positive thinking, clear person. Because at least in the personal circle, the heart-to-heart relationships, there should be love and trust. It is somewhat relative, but it's also absolute. Because if you manage money on behalf of Krishna, you must make sure everything is perfect. if somebody's giving me change on Krishna's money, I should count it for the sake of service. So I can give the appropriate report. Okay, this is given, thank you, and it is accounted for. Because Krishna's Lakshmi is never yours. Even though you may be managing it, it's never yours. In reality, a brahmachari and a sannyasi never owns anything. If he thinks he owns something, he isn't a real brahmachari, he isn't a real sannyasi. Period. Now, whether you manage something on behalf of your guru, it's a different subject. Of course, they may also manage, but it's never theirs. So, on behalf of Krishna, we can manage things appropriately, correctly. And still we should have love and trust. But we may count the change. That is something simultaneously. It's between the relative and the absolute because it has applicability in either realm. Now, when you're grihastha, everything you have or manage also belongs to Krishna. Only within the realm of the grihastha percentage, if you may say so, there's quite some freedom how to do it, how to manage it, how to expand it, how to do these things. But the grihastha who forgets that every penny he has is in his pocket by the grace of God and is supposed to be used according to the sweet will of God, he's sinful. He's deviating from the divine understanding of energy. So it is very, very interesting, no? Really, life is a big trial. What are you going to do with the energy? You think you have so much, you think you can squander it. You think, now I can do this, now I can do that. Now what is squandering? Is it squandering money to buy some toy for your children? Well, I don't think so. But it's squandering money to fill the children room with plastic toys which only putting your child in a gas chamber. Because these toys, all they do is emanate gas, specifically PVC, one of the most dangerous gases coming. And children, they're living in a room full of plastic toys, they're in a gas chamber. And the parents say, oh, we love them so much, therefore we buy them any stupid toy. So, yes, you can squander the resources of Lord Krishna if you're not careful. Everything has a golden middle way. Everything has its way. Krishna likes it, and there is something Krishna don't like. And you better find out what is that. That is your anxiousness for the absolute. So be afraid of misusing the energy so that you will use it nicely. So there's a little fear. It's also justified. Do you fear others may get tired of you? Like we see each other every day. You have to listen to my classes every day. And then I think, oh God, they've heard it so many times. Now they will make excuses not to come to class. They will do other things and prefer. So, if you're afraid that others get tired of you, that's in the realm of the relative. Because we don't get tired of eating, do we? We don't get tired of breathing, do we? We don't get tired of drinking. So why should we get tired of listening to the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and the transcendental topics which are eternally nurturing us and enlightening and enlivening us? So that side we should not get tired. But do we get tired of each other's mayas? Oh yes, we do. We get tired of another person's mayas very quickly. And that is one of the things which threatens relationships in general. People just get tired of each other. Specifically when the only thing which connects people is their sensuality. They don't have much intellectual exchange. So then they definitely get tired of each other. Like some people, they have a vocabulary which is between 2,000 and 3,000 words. That is the average vocabulary of the movie watchers of today. Because all they say in the movie is oof, coo. Other words which we want to repeat here because they are not for the Bhagavatam class now. Damn it, stupid, get out of my way, do what I say. I mean, the vocabulary of our modern life is very, very limited. Right? One famous movie maker, Mr. Fassbinder, he gave up movie making. They asked him, why you've been so successful. He said, I'm tired of making movies for people who have only a vocabulary of 2,000-3,000 words. Sorry, he's a drama writer. So the world today is very, very ignorant. Plus they talk a slang, some dirty languages they have. So its communication is also being threatened by Kali Yuga. It's not easy. So it's natural that people get tired of each other if they don't have anything interesting to tell each other. If the only thing they say, do you know Rambo? No. Do you know Bimbo? No. Huh? Oh, very nice. Huh? Tell me about them. So it's so silly. It's so ignorant, you know. And of course, then the swearing and all that. So what's really happened in the world? Those who don't have some connection with the Absolute and are concerned with the Absolute, what's happening with them? They're just talking about enemies and friends. I like him, I hate him. This guy is my friend, he does good things to me. This guy is my enemy because all he does is give me trouble in what I want to do and I want to get. So they speak their whole life only about the competition. Oh, this neighbor is so bad. Oh, this other one. No. And so they say, do you know what happened with so-and-so? No. And their whole life they're spending, and of course you get tired of that too, no? You get tired of hearing of the stories of others. So as long as we are living in the world of the relative, we must get tired. So if you're fearful that others get tired of you, it's also good fear, because it means you're moving in the realm of the relative and you should go to the world of the Absolute. And it is my experience, for example, when you're talking about Lord Krishna, I mean, I have some people that can still listen to me 20 years later. I don't know how they manage it, but because it's not me, it's not my topic. I don't have as many stories to tell about my life. As a matter of fact, I won't tell you any story about my life because it's a boring life full of mistakes. So why should I try to entertain you with my nonsense? But if I talk the Bhagavatam, the Srimad, the Mahabharata, if I talk the Ramayana, all these stories are full of teachings for what's right and what's wrong. All these stories. There is Sita. Sita went into the jungle, leaving the opulence of very wonderful palace life because she don't want to be separate from her husband. She went with him. And that is our example. That's why we glorify Sita. Savitri, she was ready to go to death with her husband. It's a famous story, no? And so much that she conquered death. Only one person in the whole history has conquered death. Savitri. And how did she do that? You have to read that story because it's so heart-touching that even Yamaraj said, okay, you got your way. So this way there's examples in the Shastras, and those you can hear again and again because you need them again and again. Because we are in trial again and again, and we have to take shelter and have to hold on to something, right? So if you feel that you get tired or others get tired of you, it's a clear indication. Go to a higher level. Go connect with the absolute. Leave the relative platform. Your fear will be your help in this regard. Do you fear you're working too hard? That fear is pretty common these days. People think, why? Why are you doing less than me? Yes, I don't agree with that. I think I work too hard. I think I should work less. I should take more leisure, more holidays. I shouldn't be questioned to do so much. Oh, no. This fear of working too hard comes from envy. It's because you don't feel that your work is wonderful. Ooh, poor guy. Because if you love what you do, because you love the one you do it for, then you can only do as much as you can, as far as time is allowing, and you will always be happy. You'll never complain. So if you're fearful that you're working too hard, that is within the relative. You are not satisfied with the situation you're in. So you're not believing in what you're working for. So this fear is a very strong fear that you have to find the real goal of life. You have to find who you would like to work for. Mother should not get tired of serving the child. Otherwise, mother is a strange mother, sick mother, ready for the mental hospital. In the West, if any woman is found negligent of her child, the government will come and take her child away. Oh, you have miscared the child? If there's an indication, some proof. But sometimes they're very, like for example, I know one person, she was taking intoxication. So she was a little bit crazy, like everybody who takes intoxication goes crazy. So she got crazy, and then somebody reported her to the government, and they took her children away. And then she suffered so much and said, oh, what did I do? And she stopped taking drugs and everything. She go to government, beg them, give me back my children. No, you're irresponsible. So even the mundane world takes away your privilege of caring for others if you don't care nicely for them. So working too hard? Can you really work too hard for those who you love? No. You can only think that you're working too hard if you don't believe in what you're doing and you don't believe in the people who you are working with or for. You don't believe in your family and like that. And you don't believe that your faith is sufficiently sound that one can work for it. Because faith brings people to work very hard. That's why there are so many temples. Because every temple is not necessary. You know, most temples, nobody sleeps in them, even though there's big space. I mean, in this space, how many people can sleep here? At least 30. But people don't sleep here. So what? Well, then why was it made? Because of faith. Faith makes people enthusiastic to do things. Things which are not necessary. Even God, He doesn't need the temple. Only the devotees need. For God, every tree is a temple. You can sit under a tree and hang up a picture and pray to the Lord, and He's just as happy as when it's in the temple. So, in this way, we should believe in what we do, and we should believe in something which makes us work very hard and happily. Next question. Do you fear you may lose sight of the goal you strive for? This question comes from a relative skeptical fear. It's in the realm of the relative. Because if you really care for, if you're really touched by something, then how you will lose sight of it? How will you lose sight of it? It's not natural. Does the mother feel afraid that she may forget about her child? No. It's not possible for mother to forget the child. That is the nature of mother. So why should you lose the sight of a goal if you really feel it is a valuable goal? So this fear which we may have, that we get sidetracked, means we have not found our guru and the goal of our life yet. So this fear again is a little bit positive, because if we have not found where we should put our heart and our energy, then it is true that we will get sidetracked because we cannot concentrate. Again, the relative and the absolute comes into the play. The relative is very trivial, and therefore it's difficult to focus on it. So if your goal is to become a doctor, then you have to pass so many examinations, but it's a trivial goal because you want to get a doctor title, you want to show off, oh, I made it through university and all that. But you are not attached to serving. Because if you want to become a healer, somebody who helps others, then you will not lose sight of it. Because you will learn and grab every information from every side, not only from a university, how to behave properly, how to heal people. Like everybody's a doctor. Every father, every grandmother is a doctor, because as soon as somebody gets sick in their family, they go, hey, you have fever. Okay, let's take this, let's take that. You have a little infection, let's get aloe vera. You are less in vitamins, let's get you some lemon juice. So like this, everybody has this type of attitude, because what you need, you want to know more about it. And of course others become specialized to make it their profession. But the whole point is, do you really believe in what you're doing? Then you will not get sidetracked. If you do not believe it, then you're always afraid. Oh, I cannot concentrate. Oh, I want to become this mathematical engineer. My father has already invested so much in my career. It is so boring, all these numbers, and I have to memorize. And I want to, rather than that, hang around and play somewhere. But so in this way, in the relative world, yes, you get afraid that you cannot concentrate enough to accomplish a certain goal. But when you're really in the realm of the absolute, this problem you can overcome, and you will have very good enthusiasm to go deeper and deeper and deeper. But you can also get sidetracked if you're careless. You can also get sidetracked if you don't follow the principles very strictly. You can also get sidetracked if you offend others. By speaking bad about others, this is dangerous. And things, negative elements, is if you focus upon the good in you, you attract the bad. If you focus upon the bad in you, you attract the good. So in this way, there's a lot of merit in recognizing one's own deficiencies and being afraid that they will pull you away. But when you are focusing on them and trying to do the right thing, the good thing, the opposite happens. You will be pulled towards the absolute and the positive accomplishment. Next question. Do you fear to offend others even though you have their welfare in mind? Sometimes people are like, they always think, oh, excuse me, oh, sorry, I hope I didn't hurt you. I hope I didn't say anything you don't like. So people are a little bit afraid that they cannot relate appropriately to each other. This is again coming from the relative. Because they are not really sure about the welfare of the other person, even though they're well disposed. They think, oh yeah, what's the best? Like somebody says, oh, will you come and visit me? Yes, I will visit you. Then, will you bring me something? Yes, I'll bring you something. Okay, will you bring me some cigarettes? Huh? Then you go, what? What? You want me to go all this way just to bring you cigarettes? No, wait a second. So, in the relative world, you doubt it. Charity in the relative world is always full of, like somebody says, oh, this poor guy, he's begging in the street, let me give him some money so he can go and buy some drugs. Maybe in India not so much this, but in the West, all the people who take drugs, they beg. So, what kind of charity are you giving somebody who's taking drugs? You give him money so he goes and blows his brains out. What kind of a help is this? So you are well disposed to him, but you're afraid to offend them. Come to the absolute. Come to the level of serving God. And your fears will be diminished and disappearing, because you will find out that the real welfare is always in the absolute. And whether somebody is getting offended or not offended, that is in his relative little world of illusion. And we may not be able to please everybody. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he spoke in such a way that many people took offense. They said, oh, why is he speaking so strong about this anartha or that anartha, about this cheating method or that cheating method? The acharyas often have spoken things which have offended others. But they needed to do that because they had the real welfare of everybody in mind. They were not just interested in some temporary benefit. Like, if I go around and I give everybody 100 rupees, oh, big smiles, huh? Every beggar, take another 100 rupees, no? And they take a photograph of me. They say, he's the guy who gives 100 rupees to everybody, So, but that is not having their real welfare in mind. This is just some gratification of myself. Oh, I go around, I give 100 rupees to everybody, and then everybody thinks, oh, how great you are. People will offer obeisances to you for giving them 100 rupees, Of course, Dinesh, nobody gives obeisances, no? But you see, it's here, it's the custom, If somebody gets something, immediately they offer obeisances. If I give somebody a kurta as a gift, they offer me obeisances, like, what is that, Is it an obeisances to who? To the kurta? Or to the rupee? Or to the person who gives it? It's kind of strange. No? So the real welfare means to give Krishna. The Guru doesn't give the rupee to the disciple. The Guru tells him, go out and beg for the ashram. Go and sell something and make some money we can maintain our ashram. And then the disciple says, Jai Gurudev, Haribol, and goes out and he collects, no? And then yes, that was the welfare. So he had the welfare of the disciple in mind, and that's why he was not afraid to say something, even though some lazy devotees, when they hear Gurudev say something like this, they say, they go, is there another service too to be done? You need somebody else to just wipe a little bit the floor and then go and hide somewhere? Anyway, this is a different topic. We don't have to go in here. But to be afraid to offend others when you have their welfare in mind is only happening on the relative. In the absolute, it's not there, because you know that you do the things as you are supposed to do them. The next question. Do you fear to speak to strangers? We are a little bit shy sometimes, so we are not always so outgoing. But by Mahaprabhu's order, in the tradition of the Vedic wisdom is Kaha Gauranga, Laha Gauranga, Bhaja Gauranga. Talk about Krishna, worship Krishna, tell everybody about Krishna. In our face, Lord Chaitanya sends us to go into every house, knock on the door and talk to them. So we should not be afraid of speaking to strangers. But why are you afraid to speak to strangers? Because that means you have to become a servant. Because you can only talk to people in an appropriate way when you offer them some service. And then, of course, the salespeople, they know that, no? They learn that. That's the first lesson. Smile, be friendly, ask how are you, and then talk to them. Find out what they like and offer them what they like. So in this way, in the world of sales, people do talk to each other. But do they talk to each other otherwise? Do they really care for each other otherwise? Beyond that? Well, the salespeople generally don't, but the devotees do. So if you're afraid to speak to others, that means you don't have a positive, absolute faith in something to be committed or to transmitted. The salespeople, they overcome this shyness and this fear because they need money. And you don't get money without talking to the people, no? It's not that you just sit there and say nothing and they come and give you money and take what they like. No. There has to be talking. So talking is a practical, and plus, even in the area of knowledge, everything is question and answer. And sometimes a person don't even ask the question, and still you have to give the answer. Like, for example, no children ask the question, when can I learn something? No. Father comes, come here, my little stupid. Now you go to school. And the teacher says, sit down. I don't want to sit down. Sit down. Because before nobody told the child to sit down, right? No, now they sit down and now sit properly. Okay. So this life is now the first thing the child has to learn is to ask questions. Of course they already know, because at home even 3, 4, 5 years they ask so many questions, no? But now in school they have to be disciplined. You only ask questions, lift up your finger. And only when the teacher says, okay, stupid, what you need to know? Now you can say, dear teacher, I don't know. Could you please tell me? Oh, very good, nice question. You're not stupid. You are Krishna Das. Good. Okay, the answer is Sarva Dharma Parichaja Mamikam Sanam Praja. So it says we have to learn how to question and answer. This is something, and we have to learn how to talk to others. Because why do we go to school? Because the teacher has something valuable to give. And why should you talk to others? Because you should give something valuable to others. If the only thing you talk to others is because you want to get their money, that is not such an important topic, and it's not very interesting. Therefore, nobody ever glorifying the Vaishyas, except when they give donation, big donation to the temple, then or to some good cause. Otherwise, nobody glorifies. Oh, this salesman, he was talking so nicely. He was giving an elaborate description about how this thing is manufactured and all this. I was amazed by his talk. Next time I'll take a recorder so I can record his wonderful exposition. You never hear that, Because it's not interesting subject. It's very relative. So when we are afraid to speak to others, it's because we are afraid to speak relative things. And that's also good. But don't be afraid to speak the truth. Don't be afraid to preach. Don't be afraid to be a testimony to your faith. This is a requirement. Even at the moment of death, you should talk to Yamaraj. You should talk to the Yamadutas. Hare Krishna, I want to tell you about Krishna. And the Yamadutas say, what? You're talking about Krishna. You're talking about the Lord of my Lord. Jai Sri Krishna. Okay, here's the Vishnu Dutas. Please, you take care. It's not our case. He was preaching to us. So talking to strangers is even at the moment of death, because you don't know the Yamadutas yet, no? So it's better talk to them, no? So don't be so afraid, because everything is in the hands of the Absolute. Just do the right thing. Those who dedicate themselves to the right will not be overcome by the bad. This is also transcendental philosophy. So again, the absolute and the relative. You see, it's applicable to all. Therefore, fear cannot be simplified and say, don't be too fearful or don't have any fear at all. No, fear is an instrument. It's a part of protection. It's a part of guiding us to the right conclusions. And it's also something indicative of our wrong attitudes. Do you fear to be ignored by God? Some people, they're very afraid. Oh, maybe God not looking at me. Maybe he forgot that he created me. Maybe he don't exist. Maybe he is just an energy who pours out living entities like me, and that's all. And I have to worry about the rest. Oh, so do you feel fear inside that what you're doing is being ignored? That you be left alone? You be hopeless? That is a fear which can become very strong. So if you have fear to be ignored by God, first of all, you're limiting God extremely. From the absolute realm, you should not feel that fear. The omnipotent one, the omniconscious one, he also knows about you and he cares for you. Now, on a relative platform, you feel to be ignored by God. What does that mean? Does it mean you feel ignored because your material desires have not been attended to? You feel, oh, my nose is so ugly, so God has forgotten me because He's given such beautiful nose to another person and not to me. And these guys got a nice job, getting good pay, and I made the same competition, I got the same numbers, but I didn't get a job. God, have you forgotten me? Or this person is so healthy and strong and I'm so sickly. God, have you forgotten me? Oh, this person has father and mother and they're happy together. My parents are divorced or my father died. God, have you forgotten me? So, what is the question? Why are you afraid to be ignored by God? This is a question of adhikar. This is a question of degree of faith, a degree of appropriate approach. If we are conditioning our faith and in our trust in God according to what we get materially, that is very it's a kind of inappropriate demand. We should not demand from God anything. We should thank Him for what we got. You know, the worst thing in this world is to think about what you don't got and don't appreciate what you got. And this is one of the big problems in this world. You don't know what you have until you lose it, they say. But I had it, but I didn't notice it. I didn't recognize it. Now I don't have it. I say, what's happening? So, we always don't have things. We always don't have positions. So what's wrong with that? You think you have to have everything? You think you have to be everything? What do you think? You think you're God? You're just a teeny little created being. The only thing you should have is submission and love and seriousness. Genuine seriousness. That's what you have to have. And whatever He gives, you should accept it gratefully and be generous or be compassionate with others who have less than you. Many times when people come to me and say, oh, I don't know, life has treated me so badly. I say, come on, you stupid. Don't you see your legs are working, your arms are working, your eyes are working, you're healthy, you can work, you can say, you can sing, you can dance, and you say you have nothing? Just look at all these people who don't have this and that, who are not healthy, who are blind, who are deaf, who have some other deficiency, or simply they may have everything but they have no intelligence. They can appreciate it? No. You better be grateful for what you got. So this topic of do you fear to be ignored by God? This is very much indicative of how elevated is your own consciousness. This is something to be studied under the guidance of the servant of the Absolute. Others will not give you any clue. Those who are in the material relative world, they will say, I got the grace of God, I got a Rolls Royce, and you are stupid, you don't even have a bicycle. Just see how God loves me. So we may fall into this type of traps and illusion to consider what God's giving or not giving, that this is something to do with His love or His care for you. Therefore somebody asked, do you know what God thinks about money? Good question, no? And the sadhu answered, if you want to know what God thinks about money, then look at the people who have a lot of money, what kind of people they are, and then you can understand what God thinks about money. He gives it to the biggest, dirtiest scumbags who run around this planet. Mafia bosses, military dictators, cheaters of all kinds. They have plenty of money, isn't it? And not necessarily the sincere, humble person who's searching for God. He may not have any money. Does that mean he is less blessed by God than this filthy billionaire scumbag? No, please get an answer to that question. Then we may proceed. Because immediately you will understand that God's grace for people cannot be measured by the money they have or by other external things. The grace of God can only be measured by your desire to serve Him sincerely and being an instrument of His love. So very wonderful meditations are these. When you understand that fear means that is a lack of faith in the Divine Lord's supervision. Because He is a supervisor. And whatever He's supervising, we ought to accept enthusiastically and obey to His command under the guidance of His devotee. And then we are safe. Otherwise we will be sorry. Next question. Are you afraid to donate to a good cause, fearing scarcity for the future? Like some people say, I'll give a donation in the future. Now not, because I have to make more money first. Yes, I'm a Grihastha, I give 50%, but not now. In the future, when the business becomes very, 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 very big, and I just don't know anymore how to spend it, I'll give a donation. But that never comes. Because as you grow your demands and your ideas and your concepts and your squandering, your spending increases, so it's a very dangerous mentality. Therefore, in spiritual life, we should always treat everything we have as God's property, and we should always be very cautious to do it according to the guidance of the pure devotees. That's all, not our mind. But to be afraid to donate to a good cause because you are fearing of the future, that means you are not remembering that everything you have is God's anyway. And if you have a good business, it's by the grace of God. If you were able to make your living until now, it's by the grace of God. If you have clothes on your body, it's by the grace of Dinesh, by the grace of God. If you have a nice meal in front of you, it's by the grace of God. Everything is by the grace of God. So why you fear that tomorrow there will be grace? So why not share that grace which has come to you? Why not have others take part of it? Therefore, the devotional attitude in the realm of monastic living is giving, giving, giving. And what is the Vaishnava giving? He's giving the most valuable of all. He's opening his door and he says, you can live here with me. That is the greatest of all charities. You can come and live here. You can come and serve here. You can come and eat here, sleep here, and do everything. But you have to do it for the service of the Lord. Not just because you're looking for a place to hang out. Free living, free eating, and doing what you like. No. This I cannot provide, because this is not what the temple was created for by my Guru Deva, to become a lazy bum hangout shelter. No. That wasn't the idea. That's not real charity. So that's not a good cause, according to a higher understanding. Of course, in the mundane charity, it may also be a cause, but that's not what ashrams are made for. So, to donate to a good cause is something very intelligent. That's really where a person shows how much of a devotee he is. That you can only tell by the donations. And one thing, God doesn't look what you give. He's looking what you don't give. He's looking what you keep behind your back. Then you will get evaluated in your devotional boon you gain. The sukriti you gain is by the readiness to give to a cause. That's where you're heartfelt involved. If you don't give anything when a good cause comes up, then this is a miserliness. It's called kripana, the opposite of brahmana, a miser. And he thinks, oh, God will not supply me tomorrow. They're the guys who keep all the grains hidden. And then when there's real scarcity in the market for some reason by drought, then they start selling for triple price. No? Those scumbags, no? Those absolute dirty business people, no? Who are utilizing the misery of others for gaining more money. They go to the war countries. Oh, where there's war, there's money. So they're spending money like water. Let me go and sell arms. Let me sell them like the medicine. This is a good moment for selling medicines. No, this is really. So we have to donate to good causes, which again, the relative and the absolute. If the cause is in an absolute platform, the spiritual master is doing something for God, I'll be gaining supreme sukriti by participating, whether when I'm donating to a good cause in the mundane realm, like for example, providing milk to poor ladies for their children, or things like that, then it's also very nice. But if there's God is not involved, if there's no spiritual upliftment whatsoever, then it will only give me material good karma. I will get some material good karma, and then I will have to come back in the future to get that karma back. That's the problem with karma. Bad karma you have to suffer, and good karma you have to enjoy. So you have to go to Swarga to live with Lord Indra and enjoy your good karma. But when the good karma is run out, it's just like a bank balance, you know. You have a bank balance, now you say, I don't have to work. I got money in the bank. And then you spend it and spend it and spend it, but it's running out. And it's running out, you start saying, ooh, what's going to happen when it's finished? I have to work again. Oh, terrible. So in this way, to keep money for one's own personal future laziness, this is not positive. This is actually something, it's detrimental to your spiritual advancement. So rather you should always think, my Lord, you're taking care so wonderful of me, let me help whatever spiritual wonderful thing you do, let me be part of it in one way or another. This is, you have to be very relaxed. You have to be very faithful. And that faithfulness comes to people when they chant the holy name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's why faithful people, they have built beautiful temples, they have made beautiful farm communities, they have decorated the temples nicely, They have distributed tons of prasadam, free food to the people. They have printed books about the transcendental messages. They have counseled people countless hours, free of cost, simply to uplift them. Not like in the Western world. There's also counselors, there's psychologists, therapists. And when you say, oh, I have a problem, can you please? Yeah, that's 50 euros an hour. Oh, I think I'm cured already when I hear the price, So when counseling is being charged for, then it's also not a real happy, generous thing. So therefore, how many hours Vaishnavas have counseled for free others on their spiritual life? You cannot count that. That is so vast, so large, the charity given by those who have faith in God. So this is the proof that faith in God produces good results. So therefore we should go the way of having more faith, for giving more gratefulness, being more compassion, and in this way we will not be afraid to give charity to any good cause, and that will be good for us. Next question. Do you fear to plant the field since there could be a drought? This is a symbolic question. Can you make an effort even the result is not guaranteed? In a relative world of calculation, they say, no risk, no gain. You have to take risks. But some people say, I don't want to take any risk. I only want to invest my energy when the return is absolutely assured. But in this world, nothing is sure but death. You cannot tell. There may be a drought. And generous people are those who plant dates. Why? Because the date tree will take so many years before it gives dates, you most probably won't be alive anymore. So you have to be very generous to plant date trees, because to plant a tree is a work. You have to make a hole, you have to put fertilizer, you have to plant it there, you have to put water on it all the time until the tree becomes staunch and strong. So it's an effort, planting a tree. So if you are not ready to do something unless your result is assured, that is a mentality which is in the material world unacceptable. Because you have to do something anyway. You have to take some risk anyway. And in the absolute realm, we should be absolutely depending on the absolute decision. And we should not be attached to the results. We should make this service for the sake of service. If it is going to be rewarded, some positive result, that's up into the Lord's hand. This is what Bhagavad Gita teaches us also. You have the right to do your duty, but you don't have a right to demand a result of it. Father brings up the child, but he cannot say, and because I gave my child 20 years of food, therefore he must live 100 years. No. He may die at 25. And then the father can say, oh, I was cheated. 20 years investing in that child, now he's dead. What did God do with me? So, no rights. All the right to do your duty, no rights or claims on the result. That is the level of the realm of faith in the absolute. So in this way, the fear to invest my energy without a guarantee, that is actually miserliness. This is something coming from egotism. And egotism is always going against the real self-interest. So there we should be always ready to put our energy into something good. Next question. Do you fear that others have the same defects as yourself? This is coming from judging others on the basis of my own conditioning. That's there in the Bhagavatam. explained. It's a natural thing. So if you're a nasty guy, you're always scared because you think everybody else is nasty. If you're a cheater, you're always careful because you think, oh, everybody wants to cheat me. If you're a liar, you're always unbelieving everything because you think, oh, as I lie, everybody else must be a liar. So I don't believe anything anybody says. What a chastisement. In a relative platform, to think that others have my defects is a simple violence into reality, because it's not true. Others may not have your defects. And if you think they have, you're already offensive in your mentality about others. You cannot say, you're a thief. Why? I have not stolen anything. Yes, you're a thief. Why you say that? Well, because I'm a thief. Then you must also be a thief. No, then you go to jail for injurious talk. For blaming others who are not. Right? You cannot say you're a thief just because I'm a thief. It's criminal. Defamation. So that's the relative. In the absolute, to think others are just as conditioned souls and as I am approaching the absolute, and I see I'm still full of lust and anger and greed and that, and I think, oh, the other devotees are just like that. No. Just because you are still immature doesn't mean others may not be more advanced. Others may be pure devotees. Pure devotees, it takes one to know one. Only a pure devotee knows who is a pure devotee. And since the pure devotees think they're not pure devotees, they'll never start thinking who is a pure devotee, who is not a pure devotee. Because it's not, of course we do have appreciation for people who are committed, who are very dedicated to their spiritual cause, and we appreciate that. But who is a pure devotee? That's very difficult to say. But neither does it have to be said. The only thing you should know, that your mistakes and your shortcomings should not be projected on others, otherwise you become an aparadi. You think, oh, they're all lusty like me, they're all nonsense like me. Then you make offense. So in the absolute realm, or in approaching the absolute, more correctly speaking, we should understand that we are always depending on the grace of those who are more advanced than we, and we try to accept their example and following their footsteps, and in this way we are going the way to get increasingly committed, increasingly dedicated, because we know there's so much ahead of us which we still have to learn. The next question is, do you fear accepting a bona fide guru would restrict your worldly plans and desires? So, some people think about accepting a guru, but then they say, if I do that, he'll give me many rules and regulations, and then I cannot do this and I cannot do that. I'm afraid of that. So, in the material world, we accept so many teachers. But why do we accept them? Because we want to get that knowledge and we want to take advantage of this knowledge. There's exploitation from the students to the teachers. The students just want to take from the teacher what they have, and as soon as they got the knowledge, okay, teacher, out here, don't need you anymore. Now I'll do your job. Or I'll do this, or I'll do that. There's not a real love. And what's the proof of that? Is how many of your teachers from the mundane fields have you kept contact? How many of them you even still remember the name? Or what to speak of caring for their well-being? No. From the teachers we take and drop them. That is the nature of this relative world of teacher. In the spiritual world now, we're talking about guru and a bona fide guru, which only a bona fide guru is a guru. Those who are not bona fide, I mean, they may pose as gurus, but they are not giving the truth. They're just giving something in order to make some business with it. But a bona fide guru, he will restrict your worldly plans and desires for sure, by dovetailing your energy in a proper channel. So to be afraid from accepting a bona fide guru because you don't want to be restricted means you are so much attached in the relative world that you're not ready to become a devotee. You say, I like Krishna consciousness, but I don't want to give up marijuana. I just want to keep smoking. And some people even say, okay, I accept the guru, but I still keep smoking. That's also there. This fake so-called acceptance, that's also there. So the relationship with the guru and the absolute has to be absolutely sincere, because you can't cheat God. You can't cheat the absolute. There's no possible. They know everything. So therefore, you want to go to a higher platform, you should give up that fear. That fear should be given up, because otherwise you cannot make spiritual advancement. And in the material world, you should give up the exploitation of the teachers. And you should always look who is teaching things in connection with God's sweet will. Because other type of knowledge, they will not be very relevant. And they are also not imposing restrictions. More or less. In a medical profession, there's an ethical code. And the ethical code is that you are supposed to always help sustain life whenever it is possible. Number 2, you're not to deny first aid at any time, at any moment, to any person, not because there's no money involved, for example. It's an ethical medical code. And what do these so-called doctors do today? They utilize their medical knowledge to finish the child in the womb, killing them, breaking the medical code. And so many of them are not ready to help anybody if there's no money involved. So even in the relative world, teachings are connected with conditions. If we don't go by the rules, we degrade ourselves. So in a relative world, you can degrade yourself. And by not approaching the spiritual, the absolute realm with sincerity, you're already degraded by being a conditioned soul and remaining a conditioned soul. You cannot reach the absolute without accepting the conditions. The absolute is transmitting through its bona fides agents and the Holy Scriptures. Next question. Do you fear that the truth will hinder your independence? People love to be independent. I go where I like. I do what I like. Don't tell me anything. Don't get involved. I am me and mine, and like this. So the absolute, the truth may hinder your independence. Well, this is a pretty interesting, that's a very philosophical question, because first of all, it was the truth who gave you the independence. And it is the highest and most exalted action of the independence when you decide to give up your independence to serve the truth. That same truth which gave you your independence can be understood and reached by giving up that independence and serving in a dependent, surrendered way. And then you will reach the spiritual independence of spontaneous love. Spontaneous, uninterrupted, unmotivated, loving service. That will be the outcome. So, to fear that the truth will hinder my independence, that's a very, very interesting consideration for those who are talking about the levels of God realizations. Because some people say, I want to become one with the impersonal Brahman so that I'll never be bothered again by anything and anybody. But at the cost of giving up my independent feeling, my independent action, my independent identity. I'm ready to give it up because I never want to be again in this problem with others, like in the material world. So there's different degrees of spiritual realization we may aspire for. We may want to understand Lord Paramatma. We may want to go to the world of divine opulence so that we can be there and enjoy with God in Vaikuntha. Or we may also want to go to the world where there's no more conditions given, called Vrindavan. Everything is Jnana Sunya Bhakti. There's love, surrender, without knowledge, free of calculation. Just, my dear baby Gopal, whatever you want, I'm yours. You may hit me, you may neglect me, you may abandon me, you can do anything what you want with me. I'm yours, and I will always be yours. So, to fear, in the relative consideration, this is not very applicable, because a person in relative consciousness, focusing on relative goals, he's not really concerned with the truth. So he's also not very afraid that the truth will hinder his independence, because he's not ready to give up his independence at all. He's distant from the truth by asserting his independence upon others. He's saying nobody has any right to restrict my independence. And I'm here in the world where one person is fighting for his independence with the other person. Everybody in this world loves to have people, employees, and nobody likes to be an employee. So there's always this, who is restricting who and for what temporary benefit. So this is not very applicable here. So to be afraid of the truth is simply an indication that we don't want to realize the truth yet. And that is which keeps us in the material world without a strong faith. Next question. Do you fear someone is to be served, obeyed, and loved by you? How could somebody fear that there's somebody higher than him and loved by him? This is because of great envy. We think there is nobody higher than me. I don't love anybody, I don't serve anybody, and obeying, forget it. So this is the approach to theism. This is the approach to the absolute. Then we can ask this: is there somebody to be served, obeyed, and loved by you? But because we are not approaching the absolute, then we're going to the relative, and then we ask, is there somebody to be served? Well, yes, I serve. Everybody has to serve on some level. Is there somebody to be obeyed? Unfortunately, yes. Many people say I have to obey them. The traffic police says I have to obey. The tax department says I have to obey. My children say I have to obey. So many people ask me to obey themselves, even though I'm not very happy about that. And loved by you? Well, I love people. I love my children. I love my friends. I love my husband, wife. Yeah, I love them, but how much do you love them? Well, that depends how much they are not in my way. I love those who favor me, who give me some pleasant situation. If somebody's giving me trouble, then I don't know how much I should love him. That happens usually when children are from 15 to 20. In India, not so much yet, but when the children become very rebellious and tell father, no, stop it, don't tell me anything. And I'm going to drink whiskey because in my class everybody's drinking whiskey. Father says, don't drink whiskey. You know, if you want to stop me being happy, then I'm going to go away from home and I'm going to make my own living in Delhi, and you just don't know anything about what I'm doing. I mean, as I say, in a cultured Hindu family, this is not really, not often found. The family attachment is very sane, and there's obedience. But in the West, children run away from home with 12 years. They prefer to live in the street under the rules of the street because they don't want to obey, they don't want to be restricted, and they don't want to serve anything except their own senses. So there we see, my goodness, where is this world running? Indians, unfortunately, have not understood where the world is running if they follow this television culture, which they're getting with 50 channels. They are blind to the fact that following the West means going the same ditch of the West. They think the West is rich, so let's follow it. It doesn't matter how the other symptoms develop. But they don't know what the price they're going to pay when they give up Dharma. So, in this way, when you, in the material world, in the relative world, you saw this love amongst family is very fragile. It is more lip service than a real thing, because so easy things are dismissed and obeyed. Who wants to obey anybody in the family? Only the small children obey. Already when they're 12, they want to wear dresses the parents don't like. Then they want to get tattoos all over their body. No? Can you imagine how it feels mother when the child comes with a big tattoo on the nose and here and there and everywhere, and a ring in here and a bone in here and a toilet cover over your head as a garland or something? Can you imagine how they feel when the children become punks? The parents go mad. They go crazy. Son, daughter. No. Then they have the hair colored in 8 colors with grease inside, looking like they are some porcupine or something, And then father says, I don't want this. What do you mean, father? You're backward? This is the way. You don't think, you don't want to give me my freedom? You don't love me? And the father goes, God. Finally he says, could you please move out? Maybe it's about time for you to get your own place and get your own job and get your own money, because I can't stand it anymore, what you're doing with your life. So this subject of serving, obeying and loving in the relative, oh my God, you're going to see a lot of strange manifestations there. And therefore it's better to go to the absolute, because there we will be more inclined to serve, to obey and to love. And then when you love Krishna, you love everybody. So to be afraid that somebody is higher there who can be served to me, that is my attachment to illusion. As the more I'm in illusion, the more I say, no, there's nobody to be served. And then you serve people in degraded ways. There's nobody to obey. And then you obey the people of the punk culture. And there's nobody to love. And then you love a dog, love illicit sex, love this, love that, but you don't love God. So, this is a very, very important point. No? The fear to not believe somebody's higher than me, I should love. This fear is what keeps us in the material world. That's why we are rebellious. And anybody tells you, why don't you come and study about the Lord? You want to preach to me? You think you know better than me? Just shut up. People get very aggressive. They get very obsessed in their illusion, and they're sheltering themselves with all kinds of crazy mentalities. Because what the people do, you cannot imagine. They go and they take drugs, and then they jump in ecstasies in a techno party. That for 3 days they don't even eat, nothing, just they're dancing and like this now. And the parents go, oh my God, my children. And finally they come home and faint. And they call a doctor. How many people have been sent into the hospital for drug overuse? How many people have died from heroin? You cannot imagine. Thousands. And the parents, they're crying. Why are you going this nonsense way? Because I want to have my freedom. I don't believe you're higher than me. I don't believe I should obey you. I don't even think I should love you. What? You can't even love your mother anymore, who has given you everything? And then they go a little in trouble. Well, mother is okay, but she just don't understand how much I love this drug. So they love the drugs more than mother. So it's better to be afraid of not serving the truth, not obeying the truth, and not loving the truth. So if you're afraid of God, you're afraid of having faith in the Absolute, that's not a very good position for you. You should rather search the shelter. We all need shelter. Next question. Do you fear all your efforts could be in vain? Do you fear that? In the relative, we are always afraid that things may not work out, I may not gain enough, and this. We are always uncertain, we are always insecure. But in the absolute realm, even though we may be a little bit afraid that we should be very careful, but Krishna is promising, I'll protect you. Just give up all other nonsense. Surrender to me. Do not fear. I will protect you. Krishna will take away our fear. That is the most wonderful thing. He will take away our mundane fears, and He will also take our spiritual fears. Because in love, there's no more need for fear. When there's pure love, everything is being taken care of. So, if you feel that your efforts could go in vain, that means you don't believe that your efforts have the divine protection. Their efforts just on a relative plane, and you think, maybe I get it, maybe I don't get it, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but it is all in vain finally. There's no certainty, there's no security. So therefore, Mataji, so this is the process of feeling the need to connect to the Absolute and to not stay within the relative things where everything is uncertain. So we have fear that our efforts will not be successful. Why? Because we see that the efforts of others don't go successful. Everything finishes in this material world. Every effort you make will fail finally, unless it's on the Absolute where your soul is on a purified level. So there is a reasonable fear in this regard. And therefore we should take very seriously our commitment and our efforts. If we do not, then we are serving illusion, and serving illusion means suffering is sure. But if we serve in the level of the pleasure of the Absolute, then even if dear people die, money is lost, house is burned, health is lost, still love is there because it's on a higher platform. So we have to have faith in those. We have to have faith in those levels of where there is a possibility of getting spiritual reward. And spiritual reward, it comes from the Absolute. The relative cannot produce spiritual reward. The temporary is not creating the Absolute. The Absolute is manifesting through the relative to teach about the Absolute, and the Absolute in full realization is the absence of the relative, or the harmonizing, the submissive attitude with the relative, so that the Absolute will be satisfied. Next question. Do you fear that death is the end of your conscious existence? That is a specific question to those who have no belief in transcendence. They are afraid. Death will come. Everything is finished. I'll be finished. My property is finished. Everything is finished. Oh, I'm so scared, so scared, so scared. So that's on the relative plane. On the Absolute plane, there's no fear that there will ever be anything ended. Krishna assures Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, the soul is not burned, it does not dry, it cannot be destroyed, it cannot be cut into pieces, it is everlasting, omnipresent. There are so many souls, they're all part of the Supreme Soul. And so the Bhagavad Gita gives so much faith, so much information in transcendence, that this question does not really apply to a faithful follower of transcendental paths. But those who do not have this in the relative, they're obviously very scared that everything they have may end. And sometimes out of frustration, they even conclude, oh, better everything ends. Suicidal. Everything's too much trouble here. There's no meaning in life. Why should I go through all this difficulty? Why should I tolerate all these challenges and all these threats and all these bad words people talk to me? Why should I tolerate the mosquitoes and the thieves and everything? No, bad world, I'm leaving you. You don't deserve such wonderful guys like me around, so I'm going. So this type of mentality is very concocted, because we are the ones who are the students here. We are the ones here to learn. So we should have faith, and we should not be afraid that the soul has no future, because it has been assured by all the spiritual paths together that there is a future for the soul. So we should just be happy and follow the line of our faith with the expectation, or with the effort to make it the best we can, so that we may expect progress, evolution in our consciousness, rather than the opposite of returning to lower conditions than we have reached already. Next question. Do you fear to be possibly born again as an animal? That's a very good fear, because there's so many animals around, and you relate to so many animals. So what is the relationship between man and animal? Can man do anything with animal as he likes and without any responsibility? The answer is no. There's action and reaction. There's an ecological balance. There's a way of appropriate dealing with each other. There's something very wonderful. Animals are very important. Trees are very important. You are contaminating the air and the trees purify it. What about that? Now you have to give obeisances to every tree and hug them, because they purify. They take them, the carbon dioxide, they take it out and put the oxygen into the air. And you take the oxygen in and put the carbon dioxide outside. So who's better, you or the tree? So we are living here in an environment, and we think we can do anything we want. This is wrong. So if you are afraid that you may be born as an animal, this is possible if you have mistreated animals. This is not something ambiguous. It is true. The scriptures have confirmed it. So if you're a little afraid of that, and because of that you start treating the animals good, only good for you, because you have no reason to treat anybody bad. And what to speak of play with animals, make sports with animals, torturing animals for so-called medical research. All these things people have done with the animals, which create a hellish environment and a very hostile situation. This is very, very bad. So in the absolute, we find that the animals are part of Krishna's realm. Cows, peacocks, monkeys, all of them are part of the environment. And then there's also the duty of the householder, the grihastas. What they are doing, well, they are they're giving cow shelter, cow protection, they're producing milk products for society, so they are cautious about the animals. That is the way it's supposed to be, Something very wonderful. So in spiritual life, we are not supporting mistreatment of animals. Now, of course, it's not an absolute thing. Maybe a scorpion, a poisonous animal gets our way, or maybe there be some necessity of defense, or when you plow the field, also you are creating violence in the earth for many living entities. It's not an absolute thing, but where violence can be avoided, it should definitely be avoided. That's the path of the face of ahimsa, and not killing and not eating animals. Unless it's an absolute necessity, as there even been mentioned in the Indian scriptures, that Vishwamitra Muni once had to eat dog because he was starving to death. So it's not an absolute thing, but the kindness is the number one concern. And we have to understand that. Because in the relative thing, there is birth and death, action and reaction. And in that relative world, you can rather die as a human and be born again as an animal to pay what you are owing to the animals. And not only once, you can be born many times. So it's a good reason to be fearful of that and to be cautious about that, not to commit those mistakes. Next question. Do you fear the reaction to your actions will bring you sufferings? Means, do you believe there's karma? In the relative world, of course, we fear that. We know if we do crime and they catch us, they throw us in jail. So it's not very difficult to accept. Yes, I'm fearful that the reactions to my actions will bring me sufferings. So better do good actions which will not have negative reactions. Now what about the absolute? Well, the absolute, that means there's a controller, and then I don't believe in the controller. The relative, rationalistic materialists will say, and therefore I think there is no reactions to my misuse, misappropriation and mistreatments of others, which are not against the law. I can do what I like, so to speak. There's so many things to be taken consideration, because even in the relative things are changing sometimes. But in the absolute, the karma is such a foundation of understanding spirituality that everybody is responsible, that unless you understand that responsibility, spirituality cannot be really focused upon, because all spirituality, even in all traditions, are nothing but the teaching of personal responsibility for your activities. Whether you say an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, or if the Muslim says if you do good it's for you, if you do bad it's for you, because the reaction will come back to you, or you follow the Vedic karma teachings, all faith endorse responsibility. All faith endorse that there's rules and regulations, that there's things happening in this world which will bring about an increased awareness and an increased sacrifice for harmonizing with the one beyond the karmic rules. The divine principle for some, or the divine supreme personality of Godhead to the devotees. But there is some rule, it's being in action, it's enacted, and I'm subjected, and therefore I should find out what that underlying principle or supreme personality of Godhead, control of everything, wishes me to do, so that I will harmonize in this way and go progressively. It's becoming a long class where we've given an interruption here. I will put 3 more. Do you fear the person you are attracted to will not respond in the same way? It's very much from the relative world, because we always feel, oh, this person is so nice, I would like to be united with that person, and then you try to approach that person and you get kind of negative response, and you go, oh, you become disheartened, you become lovesick. Oh, and so you're afraid. So in this world, like we are afraid so many times, not only the partnership in that's probably the main focus here, but Also in other relationships, do these people want to include me in their friendship circle? You know, there's always some little peer clubs, no? They are together, and you come, oh, I like your club, can I come? No, you're not. You're too black, you're too long, you're too this, you're too that. You don't. So we always try to enter into the certain circles, and we are afraid. Oh, why they don't respond to me? I like them, I feel attracted, why they don't? So in this way, in the relative world, this fear is justified because we don't get what we want. We get what we deserve. and that is usually not the same as what we want. So in this way, yes, that fear is there, but we should go to a higher level, and the higher level is if we go to the absolute, then we will find a more positive response, because we find out that the Lord loves everyone. There's even a loving search of the Lord for his lost servant. There's many preachers, they always speak about the Lord and his love, and they invite you to love. Like the preachers don't tell me, if you're handsome, young and rich, come over here, we are inviting you to the spiritual world. But if you're ugly, old and poor, don't bother. It's not like that. Everybody can go. Everybody can go back to home, back to God. You just have to wish for it. You just have to accept the invitation, and we are all there, and we can meet all together again there with Prabhupada and Srila Maharaj and all the great souls. So there's not such an exclusive thing. Yes, it's exclusive because you have to surrender to get there. It is quite exclusive, it's quite extreme, but you have to understand that everybody's welcome there, because that's the domain of love, and the love supreme has created you, therefore you are also invited. So don't fear that. In the absolute, you don't have to fear that your love will not be responded to. As a matter of fact, only Krishna, only his divine love can really respond to us in a perfect way, in the most appropriate way. Next question. Do you fear that scarcity of money will spoil the essence of your life? Well, in the absolute, we know that's definitely not so, because in the absolute we make ourselves as sannyasis, depend on the grace of God. We go here and there. Whatever will happen to us, it's in the hands of the Lord. I mean, okay, if I fall sick, I'm sure a nice doctor will come along and will tell me, hey, take this pill, or do this, or do that. I'm sure, because I'm spending my whole end of my life only serving others. So if I have a little need, I'm sure, and a little food will also come. I mean, these sannyasis and preachers get more invitations to eat than anybody else. So what is that business of eating and sleeping? And everybody wants them to come to their home. Oh, please, could you sleep here tonight? What, really? I know, really not. I'm sleeping under this tree. No, come here, we have a nice bed. So for the sannyasis, they have to always say no. So many invitations, so many help. So, I mean, if you're in the mood of wanting to please God, there's no scarcity. But if you're in the abusive mind of I, me, mine, more, yeah, then you may say, oh, people are not going to run after me to supply me sumptuous, luxurious living styles. Well, they're not supposed to. Sannyas is not for that. Brahmachari life is not for that. It's for austere living, happiness, all the energy given to Krishna. I'll give you an example. Householders, please don't be offended. But when you go to a householder's house, and they have like 3, 4, 5 rooms, the poor woman, she has to clean all that alone, because nobody else cleans it for her. And then all the gadgets they buy, have to have one vitrine and another vitrine, and then this and then that and then this and then that. And every time they get a new gadget, she has to dust them every day. And then if she is a woman of a certain culture, Everything is in a spot. The chair is here, this is that, the picture has to hang like this and not like this. Everything. So the poor woman, instead of going out on Sankirtan, instead of taking care that the temple ecstasy is being spread, she has to spend a good deal of her day just looking after the home. And every time a visitor comes, she has to rearrange the carpet because everybody puts everything the wrong way. And then she goes, ah! And if she gets 10 visitors at the same time, if the brahmacharis come with a tour, the woman almost faints. Ah! And the bathroom, what a mess they leave. You know how household is they? Not everybody. How they have their bathroom? First of all, they have some soft cloth on the toilet top. The devotees usually they squat there and so all this fine, nice bathroom gear the people have, no? And this and that, everything is nitty-gritty care, no? And then there's these wild guys come and they go, and brahmacharya is a little bit dangerous. They're always material examining. How much lasts this? It broke. It wasn't that good after all. No? So this is it. For brahmacharya is the best thing, everything made out of stone. The most safest thing. No? And it got to be thick stone, not thin. Anyhow, but the grihastas, the householders, they have things out of porcelain. Little porcelain figures and crystals and this and chandeliers. If you knock over that chandelier, it's glass flying all over, So you better watch it. So householders, they're really doing tapasya, They have to take care of this house every day. And of course, they also get bored, no? Same house, so after a while we have to change the furniture. And they have to throw out one thing and put in another, have to go shopping. Brahmachari never has to do that. A brahmachari never bought furniture. They don't know what is that. They don't care. The most furniture brahmachari ever thinks of is a little thing for his book to study. And maybe a locker for locking his things. And that's it. Brahmachari furniture history at the end, So, in this way, when you are involved in spiritual life, you don't have to fear the future. Life is not complicated. But in the relative world, we think money is everything. We think sometimes money is more important than God. We think that money is more important than life. That's why we kill others to take their money. That's how illusioned we are in this material world. We forget completely the essence of life. And we do so much nonsense for money and end up sick and destroyed and devastated and unhappy. So the fear about the lack of money is a very clear indication that we are in a mundane consciousness. We should come to the spiritual consciousness and give everything to Krishna as we can and make things happy and buy nice stone benches for the temple so the devotees don't spoil them. And trees, they're usually safe. Make nice things for Krishna, no? And the devotees, the best and safest thing for them is out on Sankirtan. Give them a big bag of books and material for preaching and say, and don't come back before the bag is empty. That's the best place. So devotees, and a few careful people you have in the temple so that you can leave it. A few careful people can keep the temple nicely clean, because a temple has to be clean, no? A temple has to be very, very nice. But it is not so complicated, not so many gadgets. In the material world, the more stuff you have, the more trouble you have, that's all. I know that personally because I utilize some of this I utilize some of those electronic gadgets which help you, give you more trouble and more. They're also useful, but then you have to have the cable, and where's the plug, and where's the outlet, and where's the current, and where's the this, and this one, oh, this doesn't fit here, and you mean you're becoming a cable life, huh? There's so many things. It's complicated. And then because you travel as a renunciate, if you're somewhere living, you have everything cabled in, so you do that once and it's done. But if you're traveling, it's horrible. Every new place, where do my cables go? It's another trouble, So the least you have in this world, the better for you. But sometimes for the service of Krishna, you have to accept certain things. No? Like now I can do my mailing without wire. Wow, to tell you the truth, I'm very happy. No wires to put anywhere to get my mail. I'm enjoying. But it's like that, In the relative world, we are always entangled. In the absolute, we will become free more and more from all entanglement. Next question. Do you fear that old age will take away your beauty? Liquid beauty, yes. Real beauty, no. The soul is eternally beautiful because it's part and parcel of Krishna, and that will not diminish. So on the absolute level, you have no fear for your beauty. In the relative world, oh my God, that's an industry. An industry of trying to make people as beautiful as they think they should be, and counteracting the teeth of time which go exactly the opposite way. And that is a big business. I mean, be it wigs or surgery, plastic surgery, or be it colors, paintings, dresses. My God. People think old age is threatening my beauty because they're on the mundane platform, and they should be uplifted by all efforts so that they can understand the beauty of their soul, and their sufferings will find an end, and their fear also. In a relative, of course you must be scared when you see an old person there walking like almost tattering around with hands shaking, no teeth in the mouth, the hair all whitish hanging, and you go, oh my God, am I going to look like that? Is that my future? No. Of course, sometimes you see an old person like this, specifically if those who are living on the country and not in the big city, because they are those who are watching TV, they're ugly until the end. Because they're always in anxiety. But when you see a country woman, 80-year-old, like with those old ingrained, how you call them, the wrinkles, with the deep ingrained wrinkles, and this healthy, happy smile on this old face. Boy, is that beautiful, That is something else. But in our nowadays, in this anxiety for external beauty, no, there's not much beauty. We are all in anxiety. We are always fearful. We're going to lose our beauty to time. What are we going to do about that? And then finally, they don't want to even show their face anymore. Then they get they put on a mask. So in this way, it's very important to go to a higher level, spiritual, the absolute level, so beauty will not be restricted to some material consciousness of some old growing body. Next question. Do you fear disease will make you dependent on others? That's a good question. Because when you're sick, you can't usually solve your own problem. You see, those who think that disease is bad, it makes them depend on others, they do not understand that they are dependent on others anyway, also when they're not diseased. What you're eating has been cultivated by somebody, has been transported by somebody, has been cooked by somebody. What about them? Oh, I pay them. No, You can't pay for that. Money cannot pay for service. Money is just a functioning principle, but you cannot pay the land for growing potatoes. But without the land, and you're depending on the land, on the trees, on the air, on the gods, on the living beings, and you think you don't want to be dependent on others, when you are fearful that you will be dependent on others, it's just a degree of your envy. You don't accept, not only I'm dependent on you, but I also want to serve you, because if I'm a dependent, then I also should be a servant to others who may depend on me. So there's nothing wrong on being dependent on others. It's wrong to exploit others, to want to use others and not serve them, and not give them anything. On the approach to the absolute level, of course we know we are dependent on the grace of others, and we are very humble, and we don't want to give others any trouble, but anyhow, if the urge comes, the most probably some kind devotee is going to give us some help, some attention. That is the nature of the charity of Vaishnavas, that they want to help each other. So on the realm of spirituality, you see finally what they said. Most of the hospitals in the world, they have some religious backgrounds. How many charity hospitals the Christians have not made, and other religious people too. So in one way or another, this thing of health, that shouldn't threaten us so much. And if we are dependent on others, nothing strange about it. But make sure you always chant Hare Krishna and giving the truth and not abusing others. That is another subject. Next question. Do you fear nature is purely accidental and a danger for you? Again, a question which comes from those who live exclusively in the relative realm, who think nature is accidental and there's no control above her. And therefore they're always fearful of nature, and they're making the bunkers, and they're making the most advanced effort to control nature. They're trying to bomb clouds so that it will rain. They're trying to put mirrors in the sky to put light on the other side of the world. When there's darkness, and they're trying to counteract the laws of material nature in one way or another. But the fact is that everything in nature is perfectly controlled, and also the chastisements coming from nature, they're perfectly controlled. And when it's time to get hit or to get whacked or to understand, hey, this tsunami was also a reaction. God and the nature is showing we are to get to our show together. And the atheists, they say, no, you see, there's no God in control. Otherwise, how would such a tsunami would take place? How would such an earthquake? Because you don't know, it's a living entity, and you are in a spirit, you grows, and you have to understand to harmonize with this. And if you are so puffed up to think that there's nobody to control everything, and everything is an accident, and everything's dangerous for you, okay, then you're going to live in fear for the rest of your life, because the earthquake can come anytime, anywhere, so you always have to live in fear. Poor guy. Then we can only say, sad life you will have, always fearing danger, danger, danger. Whereas if you have some faith and some goodwill and some good goal, you will always walk around and say, whatever my Lord wants, I will accept it. So it is something for those who are in the relative thinking, this fear is something which really strikes them and really gives them trouble, and really means that they are very disturbed. Because those who have some faith, some deeper inlying faith, they can always understand anyway that whatever happens has to happen. And if it has to happen, then why it has to happen? Well, because it had to happen, because something happened before which made it happen that way. That is called action and reaction, a third law of physical laws discovered by Newton. So anyhow, why complain then? And of course, the materialists, they are usually then, they're becoming existentialistic and nihilistic, and finally they are very suicidal as well, because they don't see any meaning in it. Why should I suffer if everything is temporary anyway? I can finish my suffering a little bit quicker, and I don't have to go through the rest of the test. So in this way, nihilism, that's Alberto Camus. This is Sartre and his followers. They create such a total hopelessness in people. Next question. Do you obey religious traditions out of fear? There's religious traditions and people follow them. And this is a question of your relationship to your faith. Do you follow your faith because you're afraid not to do so? Or do you feel an attraction? When you're approaching divinity, the absolute, you know there's something very wonderful. It's not by obligation. We have freedom. We can also stay here and doing anything. So we know there's a higher thing, as I explained previously. There's the fulfillment of duty, attachment, and love, which connect me. But maybe in the beginning, people are a little fearful, and that's why they start obeying spirituality. And in that sense, that's not such a bad fear. At least it helps them to make the first steps. And those who are not touched by this, who are not believing at all, well, they don't follow any religious traditions, and they are not afraid. At least they're not afraid in this connection. They're afraid of everything else, but they don't think that religion has any importance to them, and therefore they're moving in the relative fears, which we have already seen are much bigger and much more complicated. Next question. Do you fear to do the wrong things in life? Do you fear you're making mistakes? Approaching the absolute, we are surely afraid that we do things wrong, and that's why we get very attached to the seniors, to the advanced devotees, and take their guidance. In the material world, we are also afraid to do the wrong things, because then we will have some kind of reaction for that. And this fear is also, in a sense, justified, because we see how many wrong things we do. And since, like, if you connect a nice machine, very useful, the wrong way, you blow it. So you should be a little afraid of that, and first make sure the plugs are right and everything is proper. Otherwise, for lack of fear, you're getting some reaction or paying something. So it's rather a natural fear. But instead of being fearful, just be concise, systematic, and cautious. And then you don't have to be afraid. Anyhow, that's a relative observation. The next question is, do you fear you served the wrong family? Living with your wife and your children, and your mind goes, maybe I should serve another family. Maybe I should get divorced and find myself new husband, new wife. This type of thinking is there in the relative world quite often. That's why divorce is such a common thing. Otherwise, if they think religiously, that's my life, I live it through, my children. Like, you cannot think after you give birth to a child, do I really want to have this child? It's a little bit late to thought, no? Once there's a child, it's your child. You better make sure the child is happy to be your child, because it's a duty of the parents to behave in such a way that their children can be proud of them. It's a very, very important thing. So, do we serve the wrong family? Well, maybe sometimes things are so miserable, so unbearable, that we simply have to escape from a terrible situation. I will not say that such situations may not exist, because I know they do exist. So then it's not a question of fearing or doubting. Then it's a question of knowing, I can't do that anymore, I have to move out or away from this. But on the other side, approaching divinity, we should know there's only one family, that's Krishna, my Lord. And I serve my husband, wife, my children, my friends, my guru, my everyone in the service of Krishna. Whatever my Lord wants, I'll do that way. because whatever he wants is the best for me, and there's no question of wrong family, because he has given me my wife, he has given me my husband, he has also given me my tests and trials, but he has given to me, and he's very kind, and I should be very grateful for everything he has done with me, and beg him to forgive me any mistake if I have done any on the way. But I cannot do, but if I have made mistakes, well, mistakes are there. I cannot claim I'm perfect, I did a mistake, but still, the only thing I'm afraid of is that I may lose Krishna's family. If I lose Krishna's sweet will and his joy, then this would be a great loss, so I don't want to have that loss. So, therefore, I believe in my family. So approaching the infinite, the absolute, family ties should be very strong and healthy and devotional, of course. Next question. Do you fear your job or duties are not meant for you? In the Gita it says it's better to execute your duty imperfectly than to execute the duty of somebody else perfectly. We have to sometimes do our things even though we are not so capable. In approaching divinity, you should not be afraid of your duty because it's given from your guru. In any question of any doubt, you talk to him. Oh, I'm not doing a good job. Maybe I could offer another thing. It's not a static thing. Spiritual life is ecstatic. There's always dynamism. There's always movement. But still, we shouldn't be afraid to do our duties, thinking that, oh, they're not meant for me, because that's clearly they're meant for you. You have your duties because that's the way life has given them to you. Whereas in the relative realm, we're always uncertain. Oh, this job is not giving me much money. Maybe I should do another job which gives a little bit more money. So we are always in this, oh, maybe I should live in this country. No, but in another country I can slide in. Some people like in South America, they always try to get to North America at any cost, hiding even one guy, he was hiding in the place where the wheels of the airplane go, when the airplane takes off and the wheels go there. A guy went in there, one mechanic, he saw there's a little space, and he clung there, and he flew all the way 50 degrees below zero in there. And how many people have died? The people from Haiti, Cuba, they're going in any wild way to try to reach America, Puerto Rico, and thousands of them have been eaten by sharks when the boats went under. But they were so eager to get a little more money, to get a little bit more this, a little bit more that, so they're ready they're questioning this, so the job and duties are not meant for me. The place I'm living is not meant for me. This is not meant for me. I have to change this, I have to change that. That's a torture on the relative level. Those who are living in relative consciousness, ignoring the absolute, no guru, no guidance, nothing, they're always being tortured, and they're never really confirmed. Sometimes they say, yes, I'm happy, but then you ask them, would you like to change? Oh yeah, to what? Well, if you're happy, you wouldn't want to change. Then you would say, okay, not only I have what I have, I have what I should have, I do what I have to do. Thank you very much for being accommodating and helping me, but I'm thanking my Lord for what I have. It's just like when you have your guru and somebody else comes, hey, I got a better guru. I have one who knows more mantras or this or that. No? So if you're happy with your guru, if you're happy with your devotional life, you will never pay attention to such a thing. But if you're not dedicated yourself and you're like in a tourism consciousness, oh, maybe this, maybe that. Oh, there's a guru with a long beard, and there's one who lives in a cave. Wow, if he lives in a cave, he got to be special. I better go and listen to him, no? So you find the guru, oh, no, I have a guru, he's sitting on nails, you got to go to the guru who's sitting on nails, And then somebody says, no, you have to go to the guru who doesn't talk anymore. I have a guru who is 40 years without saying a word. And others say, no, what is this? I got a guru who's standing on one leg, like Hiranyakashipu, and he already built a big temple. He's still standing on one leg, So in this way, you may be very anxious about meeting different gurus and seeing if you get something new. But if you are on the transcendental plane, serving your Guru and Krishna from your heart, you will not feel anxious like this. You will not think this, I have to go to the supermarket of gurus and see what is there. You just want to get what is the realm of the Absolute, how to approach it appropriately. And then you know your job and your duties which you got from your Guru, they're really the gift he has given to you. And that you should perfect your life according to the lines of that. Whether Grihastha, Brahmachari, it doesn't matter. Next question. Do you fear to renounce what you do not need? Some people, they have collector spirit. In the relative world, they want to get more and more and more and more and more. And the house is so full, there's no more space for moving. I've seen some people's house, you cannot get in. Everything is full, crammed with stuff they collect. They can't even clean it anymore. They can't dust it. They have it's like a kind of a disease, no? But it comes in different level, the collector spirit, you know. And if you say, can you please give me this? No, I need that. When? I don't know when, but maybe sometime I'll need it. So they're very attached to everything, and they always afraid they may lose something. When somebody visits their home, they're nervous that they're not going to take something with them because I may need it. So in this way, if you cannot renounce what you do not need, this is a very, very serious symptom. If you're afraid to give away what is not in use by you, somebody else could give a use to it, this is really Maya. Now, when you come to the Absolute, approaching the Absolute, how does it manifest there? Well, there's a certain, I'm a big devotee collector. They say, you know how big I am, look how big my japa is. It's the biggest japa in the whole Vaishnava community. You know, I have to lift each ball like that. Like this one. The super duper japa. I mean, you got to become an Uttama Adhikari chanting on that one within a week, no? If you can carry it around and really chant 16 rounds on that japa, you know, I want to see it. Anyhow, so there's a certain thing, or there's the devotees sometimes they accumulate more than necessary also. Like they think, I have to learn many books and read, but they don't put it into practice. They are not eager to do service with that knowledge. So if you cannot renounce what you do not need, it's not very good. Those who are approaching the Absolute, they have a more simple life, but anyhow, they can spend their time for their own advancement and also sharing it with others. For example, some of the time you should renounce by preaching it, by giving it to others. It's very important. If you don't utilize your time to help others, this is not very progressive. It's not so nice. So you should really try to give everything away which you don't need. Make your space clear. What you don't need. Come on now. If you have a library, you have to take care of the library because books are important. They have to be in order to get spiritual teachings. Sometimes we make research work. We need to have a lot of books to find certain things. Of course, nowadays everything's in the Acharya folio, so you don't even need the books anymore. Accumulated in one place, you know. Life is changing, but you need to know these things. But you can accumulate too much. You can get too much enamored. You can, like we are producing movies and for preaching, and there's quite a lot we have, but thanks to God, we can put it on YouTube, because to manage all these CDs, it becomes a nuisance. You know, finally, the devotee comes to a temple and he opens like a huge bag with thousands of CDs. It becomes impractical, you know, because about how many things you can talk. I already have in my bag more things than I can explain when I visit the temple for 1 or 2 days. If I want to give a lecture about everything which is in my bag, I have to take at least 2 weeks to show them everything and explain them everything and this and that. So I just put it on the internet. If they have time, they can load it down from there. And I go on talking about other things which inspire me at the moment. So in this way, we should not fear to renounce what we do not need. Should give it away to those who make good use of it. You know, there's more money in this world than you can spend for Krishna. There's more opulence in this world than you can use for Krishna. And there are more things to know than you have time to get to know. It doesn't work that way. You cannot get everything. Just be satisfied with what Krishna has given you. Krishna has given a certain quota to each one. He has given to everybody what he needs. You take that what you need, be happy, thankful, and always share with others. Next question. Do you fear to renounce the attachments even after having realized that they give no benefit to you? Well, this is a long class for those approaching the Absolute, because it's one of the cautions given to us that we should not remain attached to the things we know they're useless. So we won't go into that subject more. In the material world, unfortunately, people have not enough fear to renounce the attachments even after having realized that they give no benefits to them. That's why they take drugs. They know it's bad. They know it has ruined so many things, but they're not afraid. Otherwise, if they would be afraid, they would give it up. So here's a case where you need to be afraid. You need to be afraid from doing the wrong things, because the wrong things will give the wrong result to you. So in this way, sometimes reactions are there to teach us to be more afraid, to be more conscious, to be more careful about things. So you see, it goes forward and back. That's why fear cannot be analyzed just in a one parameter. It has to be considered from many different aspects, whether how much fear is really interfering with, look, it's right there, interfering with your spiritual progress. So in this case, no fear interferes with your spiritual progress. Now, that sounds contradictory? May sound so, but it isn't. We have to be afraid of the nonsense we do. Some people leave their children abandoned. Are they not supposed to be fearful of what will happen to them doing so? They better be fearful. So certain things in life you have to be fearful, so you don't do that. Even though maybe the mind will invite you, oh, why not this, why not that? A man is running around with another woman. She's nice, but he has husband, she has wife and children at home. And maybe that woman does not care. She just wants to enjoy with him. So the moment before he kisses her, he has to think, that will ruin my family. My wife finds out about that. My children, they lose their faith in me. There will be so much suffering. So this kiss is going to be a very costly kiss. So now don't tell me there's no woman who would not accept to be kissed by a married man. But is it convenient? Is it recommendable? No. So he has to better think, thanks, you're very nice. I'm sorry that I have a wife and my children, and bye-bye. That's it. No. So this is the way we have to go ahead in our life. Because in this way, we can keep getting more and more spiritual strength. So, to renounce that, or to be afraid of what is attractive to us, because we know it's harmful, it's no good. It's good to be afraid like that. Because the husband should be afraid. Oh, if I do a mistake, my wife and children are going to suffer from that. I don't want them to suffer because I love them. So, I go my straight way. Next question. Are you afraid to work hard? It's double, no? Yeah. Next one. Are you afraid to give everything you can or have to make your own efforts more successful? This is a very interesting question. How much of our efforts and our surrender we give to make our things successful? Like sometimes we do a job, half-baked, half-made. In the approach to the infinite, the absolute, we should try to do everything the best we can and give the most we can. It's not something like a little bit here, a little bit there. No, there's no space for mediocrity in love. But are you afraid to give everything you can to make your effort more successful? Well, generally people are not giving most, but it's relative, Some people, for their relative desire to go up to the Mount Everest, they're risking their life. Some people, for making sports and idle things, they're also risking their life. And then there's others, for the service of God, they're not risking their life. They're pretty relaxed. So this is a good question. This is a very interesting. Are you afraid to give everything you can or have to make your own effort more successful? If you're approaching the infinite, you should not be afraid, because He knows perfectly what you can and what you can't. And if you are in the relative world, well, it's ambiguous. Even if you give everything you have to get your goals accomplished, you still do not get the transcendental realm. You don't get a positive return. It's just a karmic effort. And if it's good, it'll give you good karma. If it's bad, it'll give you bad karma. And either karmas, you have to accept them later in another birth. Are you afraid to fight your laziness? That is something very personal, no? My laziness. How much I have to sleep, how much energy I should give, how often should I be capricious, and how often should I be absorbed in service with full energy. Like when it comes to me, to be honest, I want to live in marathon. I want to live and I want to die in marathon. I have no plan to make marathon and then stop marathon after a while and just relax and put your legs up and say, okay, I've done my job. No, because I think it's wonderful to spread Krishna consciousness. I don't want to be lazy. Not because nobody ever told me you are not supposed to do this, or you must go out so many hours. No, I really, what I do because I really feel it's wonderful to do it. And in this way, laziness is something which is coming from not having any joy. When you have joy in your service, laziness is not attractive. When you don't have joy in your service and your mind has taken over, then you become lazy. You sometimes don't even want to eat. Of course, that's rare. Usually laziness stops where the eating begins. No? But and when you are really without any enthusiasm for your goals, then you need immediately a consideration. Why am I not happy about it? Why am I not joyful about my work? Because it's not natural. You're supposed to be into what you're doing. Of course, it's karmic also. Sometimes we have to do things we don't like to do. But if the guru likes it, in a spiritual approach, you should also like it. Because what he likes is enough for me to like. And in a material realm, to be lazy or to be active, both of them are bad karma. So it's not such a thing. Of course, even in the material realm, we should tell everybody, hey, become useful and active for good cause. Don't be egotistic. And so there's many moral evaluations here of social consideration. But to be afraid to fight your laziness, that means it's like an utmost degree of egotism, which brings that about. Are you afraid to admit your mistakes and therefore prefer to lie? I guess this is more common than we imagine. we are so faulty. We make so many mistakes. Life is so full of deficiencies. But it's a reality. If we want to make spiritual advancement, then we have to overcome our mistakes. We have to go beyond our shortcomings. We have to get the mercy of Lord Krishna. If we don't, then we will live a lie, and living a lie means suffering the life in that lie. So the more honest we are about our shortcomings, the better for us. In approaching the Absolute, we should definitely be honest. Therefore the devotees have said, I'm the sinner of the sinner. I'm more fallen than a worm in a stool, more sinful than Jagai in Madai. That's what our teachers have taught us about spiritual attitude towards this. We shouldn't run around and say, hey, I'm a great guy, I'm quite a devotee, I'm quite advanced, I've studied a lot, I've followed the principles, I'm doing so many yagyas and mantras, and now I'm really quite a good person to trust, whereas I see most of the others are pretty negligent, lazy, they're not as good as me. This is not a devotion attitude. This is despised to think like that. And in the mundane, in the relative world, well, if you lie, nobody trusts you. If you don't admit your mistakes, you're considered a nonsense, a fool. And you can fool some people for some time and some people for all the time, but you can't fool all the people for all the time, so it's useless. So come to your senses, admit your mistakes, and don't lie about yourself. If you don't want somebody else to know some of your deficiencies, then at least find somebody advanced who you can admit them to so they can help you. Because if nobody knows your deficiencies, if you're living a lie and if you're living in your deficiencies, then there's no hope for your spiritual advancement, because you're living in the world of hypocrites. And that's not a very good place to be, neither for those in the approach to the relative success, nor those who want to approach the Absolute. Are you afraid to distinguish between love and lust, out of fear that you may discover the prominent animalistic propensity within yourself? This is also a very good thing, because lust and love means love is approaching the Absolute and lust is the relative world of pleasure. Even though within the lust world we also talk a lot of love, really it also always ends up to be just lust considerations. Friendships, attachments. Oh yeah, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Until we have different interests, then I don't love you anymore, I don't love you anymore. It's very shallow, very foolish. So, as soon as there's I love you, I don't love you, there's no love. It means I lust you and now I don't lust you. So if I don't lust you, I don't want to see you. If I lust you, then I tolerate you. Something like that. Not very mystical, so to speak. So when we discover the difference between love and lust, we have to see how much animal propensity is alive within us, making us so much lusty still, so much perverted still, so much deviated still, and therefore people are often afraid to face the reality. They're sometimes afraid to say, hey, I have to do something about it, I have to get more service, more attachment to Krishna. I just can't go on so ignoring the reality. So we are not very advanced. That's the point. That's why we are still lusty. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Gopinath says, I am under the domain of lust. So it's not something strange. It's something to be fought. If you say, no, I'm not lusty, that's a very strange sign. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe you're so advanced. But even if you're so advanced, I don't think you'll say that. Because lust is always a potentially animalistic propensity is there within us. The very physical body is prone to become lustily agitated. Therefore, it is by dharma that we control our lust. It's by dharma that we put ourselves in the right perspective. Not because I'm not lusty anymore. Because as long as you're in this material world, lust can be incited in you. And love will only come by total dedication and surrender to the Guru's instructions, and by developing a taste for Krishna's name and lila. Guna, lila. All the characteristics to get to do with Krishna. We should be very attracted to him, or in other faiths, to their spiritual revelations. So in this way, to be afraid to distinguish between love and lust is not being serious about the approach to the absolute. That means you are dwelling in the relative, mundane, and you don't want to question your way of approach. And then you stay there. So, don't be afraid to distinguish between lust and love. In this case, you have to give up that fear, analyze it, and find the world of love, and you will be happy. Next question. Are you afraid to reveal your heart, fearing others may take advantage of knowing about your feelings? Sometimes people have a public life, a private life, and a secret life. The public life they can talk about. The private life they talk with some people. And the secret life nobody knows. So, revealing your heart is referring to the secret life. That which is really not good and which is somehow harboring in there, that you have to reveal to get cured. If you don't do that, you're living with your secrets and with your karmas also. So, we should not be afraid to reveal our heart to those who are spiritually advanced. If you think others will take advantage of it, then you don't trust them, then they are not the person to reveal your heart to. If you have nobody you can reveal your heart to, if you are too attached to your mundane pleasure and therefore you don't want to say it because then you have to give up your mundane mistakes, then this is within the relative world, there's no spirituality in it. Like I say, you can't cheat Krishna. He knows everything anyway. So, to reveal one's heart in the Vaishnava approach, this is a very important thing that we should always find advanced devotees reveal our mind even about the secrets. And within that advice we are getting strength to clean out the things in case your secret life. I'm not talking about the mystical secret life, because there's also something secret spiritual experience a person has which he cannot share because they cannot be understood. They will only transmit in his life through his enthusiasm, and so I'm not talking about that secret life. I'm talking about the secret life where you're doing anything, even your mind, like in my secret mental life, sometimes memories occur which I won't like to tell you. Shameful memories from the past, what I read in my life, no? But they sometimes occur. Now if I tell that to you and I say, oh, it's very embarrassing. But it's a secret part, no? But this happens. So if these things happen, a great devotee can tell you, okay, chant more, read more, overcome your mind's demand, and so on, no? There's medicine for everything. So if there's any secrets in you which are not good, find somebody who can give you some medicine to clean it, to cure it, so that you make spiritual progress. Otherwise you'll be lingering around with these defects and you never make real advancement, and you can make it because you didn't trust any Vaishnava. Because revealing one's mind and confidence is also a question of trusting Vaishnavas. And this trusting Vaishnavas is very beautiful. It's only good. But of course, if you talk to somebody who's a gossiper, and you say, listen, this is what happened in my life, or this, like one person was misused, sexually abused in her childhood, and then she tells that another person, he spreads it all over the temple, no? This is something like this may happen, such Of course, it's very careless, very stupid to do that. When one reveals one's mind in confidence, one expects that be kept confident. But this world is like that. Last not least, whatever happens, we have to live with it. Sometimes, When I was 9 years old, I discovered the library of my father, which was a hidden library. It was a pornography library. I mean, something a 9-year-old shouldn't see, a 20-year-old shouldn't see. But I discovered it as a 9-year-old. I said, my God, what is this? Hidden library, must be interesting. When I started reading and looking at the pictures and all that, I got mad, My little child brain just was burst. What is this? And so in this way, I get very contaminated as a child by finding this library. So if I don't find help from the Vaishnavas to show me that lust and love, totally different things, I'd probably be mad running after lust. But Krishna is kind and he shows us things. Even as a matter of fact, for me, finally, this library helped me to understand this is garbage. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I want the real thing. I want that love which is not there confined in sexual organs and stupid stories of abuses which are not responsible for anything. So, but this was my karma. So in this way, we should question ourselves. What is good for us and what is bad for us? And by revealing our mind to other advanced devotees, then we will get help. And if some other people know about this, like for example, I've spoken about that in public, I've said it in classes. So, you read pornography when you were a child? Yes, unfortunately. So, if the others know about it, it doesn't really bother me, Even though this is the sufferings one has in one's life. Because what you read as a child, it's the best memory you have in that time, And something prohibited is even more attractive, when the teachers tell you, read this book, you don't want to read it, If they tell you, don't read that book, then you say, I must read that. So we are all human frailties, Okay, here we go to the next one. Are you afraid of being kind to others? That is a very interesting point here, because kindness to others, we know is beautiful, but then you go in the material world and people are not kind with each other. And then you go into the temples, in the ashrams, and you find people not being kind with each other. And you wonder, what the heck is going on in this world? Who is wanting to be kind? Why are they afraid to be kind? Or are they not afraid? Are they simply unkind and they're not afraid? Excuse me, are they afraid to be kind? What is this? What kind of a disease is this? We have to be always kind with others. If you want to approach the absolute, you better be behaving like those who are teachers of the absolute, and they're all very kind. And if you are in a relative world and you're unkind, then don't be surprised if you're going to get knocked over just as badly as you are knocking over others. And that's what happened in the material world. One person is knocked over in work, then he goes home and he knocks over his wife and children. So it's kind of a thing, action, reaction. The thing goes forward and back. No? So this is not acceptable. Not acceptable at all. So kindness is something very important. If you're afraid of being kind, that means a very great lack of spiritual advancement and a very great lack of culture in relative dealings. Because this is what makes the life miserable. And there's a whole lot of people out there helping a lot to make this life miserable by being unkind with others. I'm not touching here violent and duplicitous. I'm simply speaking about kindness, because other things make this world even worse. Next question. Are you afraid of water even though you know how to swim? Well, water represents the material world, the causal ocean. Water is vast, is big, full of timingila fishes. So you better be a little bit afraid of water when it comes to understanding the creation, the cosmology of the Vedas, or just by looking in the sky at night. You see the space, the oceans, the air, the bodies, the celestial creation, everything is amazing. But to be a little bit afraid of that, you swim, that's good for you. But don't think you can swim over the ocean. You won't be able to do it. Yesterday we saw a dog almost drowning while we were having kirtan. Krishna saved, devotee saved the dog. Was good. But, you can't be sure. You can't be sure. If you panic in the water, you can drown even if you're a good swimmer. And who wouldn't panic if he's out on the ocean alone in the water? I mean, you're bound to panic after a while. Or you get tired, or you just can't resist. I mean, some people have resisted for a good while, but water. If you're afraid of water in an unreasonable way, means you're forgetting that Krishna is a taste of water. Water is also an element of mercy, sustenance. So the subject of water should be approached very philosophically, like all the elements. Takes us to the next question. Are you afraid of fire, even though it cooks your food? Fire, Agni, Krishna, there's a very powerful agency. So, fire, of course we are afraid of fire because it burns. And anybody's been burned, he is more afraid of fire after being burned. But we should also understand fire is the fire yajna, the offering. We cook our food to offer to Krishna. There's so many good things about fire. And it is the Lord's energy himself. Even though the universe is destroyed by fire. So a little bit afraid is good, and also due respect. Water and fire are the elements of the Lord. Earth, water, fire, air. They are the initial forms to show respect to the Supreme. Because if you can't focus and have faith in the Supreme, you have to have faith in the elements, because they're part of His energy and they're giving us our existence. Because to combine earth, water, fire, air and ether, and to create all of our bodies, that is quite an accomplishment. That's not an ordinary transformation. There are some scientific codes at work which are not appearing by accident. And whoever has brought those codes of work into action, he is the worshipable one who we should not be afraid of approaching. By His grace we can give up fear, and not approaching Him should cause a certain fear by just seeing the elements out of control, or at least apparently out of control, because in the ultimate nothing is out of control. Everything is controlled by the Supreme Lord, even the drop of water which falls from the sky. Are you afraid to speak a lie? They say lies have short legs. They walk a while, but eventually they are discovered. In the mundane approach, in the relative world, lies are always part of the big show of illusion. The whole mundane existence is a big lie. It promises you that's the best thing to do, and it's not. So in a relative, what to speak of lie when everything is a lie? And in the approach to the absolute, the Guru does not lie. He gives us what his Guru gave to him. The scriptures teach us with many examples. They're giving us guidance for the sake of our soul. Is there a lie in the approach to the infinite? Yes. The lie of love. And what is that? The lie to protect the devotee. Lord Krishna lied to protect his devotee. He said, I will not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, and then he did break his promise. So he lied. On several occasions the Lord speaks lies to protect his devotees. So the lie is not the highest in the approach to the infinite. Love and service to the infinite, that's the highest. But of course, in general, there's no lies in spiritual relationships, because everything is sincere, important. But if it's for the sake of protecting a devotee can even lie. Pious lies. Something like that. Next question. Are you afraid of reincarnation? Well, in approaching the Absolute, reincarnation is the most natural, and it is the stepping stone towards existing in the Absolute, serving the infinite in his realm, so there's no need to be afraid of reincarnation. Those who are in the relative world, for them reincarnation should be a kind of hope that something goes on after giving up this existence. So people are afraid of reincarnation actually only when it challenges their belief system. Otherwise, people talking about reincarnation in all kinds of cultures is a very natural thing. It's not something to be scared of, it's something to learn from and like that, to be excited about. Only those are afraid, reincarnation, no, I don't believe that. I think God will save me right away after this world, after this life is finished. I'm sure. No, I will not be held responsible how bad I dealt with the animals. And no, I don't think so. I think I'll be saved. So these type of people are afraid of reincarnation. Because they're afraid that they have to pay the dues for all the mistakes they've done. So dictators usually, they don't like reincarnation. Because that means if they die and they will be held responsible for all the nonsense they've done, that means they'll be judged on the same line with the cobbler, with the agriculturist. He won't be Mr. Dictator, he won't be Mr. King. He'll be just number so-and-so, come over, Yamaraj calling you now. What was your story? Oh my God, that was your story? Oh my God, what will you get for that? There's many millions of lifetimes of sufferings waiting for you by all the sins you did. So no wonder the kings don't like reincarnation, and they like to do away with such ideas. Sincere, humble, simple people, reincarnation, Haribol. We just hope it's going to be something worth our while, that we didn't blow it too much. And in this way, reincarnation is an omnipresent element in the world thinking of virtually all cultures. The Jewish culture, in the Kabbalah, they're very clearly teaching reincarnation. Old Christianity as well. Next question. Are you afraid of your thinking and thus try to become unconscious by watching television or taking intoxication? Some people, they are suffering so much, their mind bothers them, their questions, their doubts and everything in the relative world. They prefer not to think, and a way to achieve that is by taking intoxication or by going on the alpha stage of consciousness. The television just lulls them into the sofa, and the only thing they can eat is potato chips, which they're advertised on the screen, and in this way they're becoming like real silly and very brainless, and this is kind of a way. And specifically if there's a football World Cup, now the whole world is saying and they pass the whole month there like in the greatest degree of unconsciousness, because while the football match goes on, they don't care how many people get killed, what's happened next door. Everything is just like blackout, no? So this is the material world. I'm just giving the match just to give an example how the TV works, you know. It just lulls you into some irresponsible area. So are you afraid of your thinking? Well, if you're not afraid, then think. But think about what? Think about the teachings about the Absolute. When you approach the Absolute, you don't want television, you don't want intoxication. This is disturbance, because your thinking capacity gets greatly disturbed by that. And we don't want to be disturbed. Under no condition we want to be disturbed in any way. We want to be fixed and focused in our spiritual dedication. And we need that. We need that kindness and that help which comes from the thinking power, the Chit Shakti, and that's given by Krishna. So we should not become unconscious. We should become conscious of divine service, of wanting to serve, of being a happy, surrendered servant. Then you don't have to be afraid. Afraid of thinking, afraid of feeling. Oh, this is very, very unfortunate. Because your feelings can become divine feelings. But if you're feeling only in a material world, then you're bound to suffer from that. Next question. Are you afraid to ask questions, being embarrassed by your ignorance? Some people don't know something, but they don't want to ask the question because then maybe others see, oh, you don't know, you're so foolish. So they prefer to stay in ignorance by not asking the question, even though they don't know. Of course, this type of attitude is prohibited in managing cars. Because if you're you didn't ask what to do with the shift, no? And now you don't know where to put it or what the brake is, no? No, you have to ask and you have to learn. In everything important, responsible in your life, you have to ask and you have to learn. Otherwise, you're not allowed to use it. That is general approach. But people are not asking the questions about the eternal absolute realm because they're afraid they have to change their lifestyle. They're afraid that they are wrong. You see, the older people are, the lesser they're inclined to question things in their life and to see their mistakes. So it's a very great danger. You should not be afraid to ask the right questions, and you should also not be afraid to apply the wisdom to your life. Within the approach to the Absolute, questions about everything is a daily practice after class. When we study scripture, everybody's allowed to question. If you can't understand something, you don't ask. It's your own foolishness, because there's always space provided amongst Vaishnavas for questions and answers, because the whole Bhagavatam is question and answers. So it's an ongoing thing. Srila Prabhupada said the life of the devotees is a continuation of the Bhagavatam. You see? Very important. Bhagavatam is our life. Bhagavatam is our principle. Bhagavatam is our teacher, our guidance. So questions and answers is always part of it. So you should not be afraid just because people know, oh, he's ignorant. Whenever I don't know something, I immediately find out somebody who can answer me the question. Are you afraid of others in general? In the mundane field, that sometimes happens. The relative people are afraid, so much danger in this world, so they become scared with anybody they see. They don't trust. In the spiritual realm, approaching the infinite, this is not appropriate. You should trust people according to what they give and what they are. But you should not trust those who are mundane, who are completely in the sense gratification, those who are giving their whole human life away to some sinful activities. They should not be trusted. But you should trust the devotees, because those who are dedicated to the service of Krishna, they can help you in your spiritual life. So in this way, we should choose those who are very close to our spiritual master, number one, or ask the Guru himself. And in this way, you should not be afraid of those who behave trustworthy. But wait a second. Behave trustworthy, it is something which is an ongoing thing. Not that somebody's trustworthy one week and next week he does nonsense. No. You have to see where's nishta, where's permanent stability, where's some real power of spiritual dedication and much of love. Then you can trust. Okay, let me ask. Let me help here. Let me participate. Next question. Are you afraid of your parents, brothers and sisters? That happens in the relative world, where people are not even kind with their own family sometimes. And that's very unfortunate. Wherever there's distrust between the closest family members, we can understand there's big ambition, ego, there's nothing spiritual going on. Those who are spiritually advanced, they love each other and they forgive each other if any mistake has been committed and recognized. If there cannot be any forgiveness, then there's also no love. Cannot expect everybody to be perfect, because this is just the conditional existence. It doesn't work like that. So, if you're afraid of your own family members, this is a very bad sign. It either means you'll be totally in the relative world where everything is exploitation, or it means you are so distrusting because you are yourself not very trustworthy. Because devotees are trustworthy. Devotees have dedicated years of their life only to serve others, to help others. How can they not be trusted? So it is a question that I know so many Vaishnavas I trust. Not I trust everyone for everything. Some people are more outstanding for certain fields, but I tell you, I'm very safe because I trust many Vaishnavas to ask if I don't know something at some point. So in this way, it's important to have such devotees who you can say, yes, I trust what he says. He will not exploit me if I make a question. Next question. Are you afraid to fly, even when you know that more people die in car accidents than by airplane crashes? Well, it doesn't really apply to approaching the absolute, but in the relative realm, we can see that our fear about our own body is something which comes from the attachment to our body. And even though when we fly, we know it's going to fall deep, it's going to be bad, no? We don't realize that it doesn't take a car or a plane. I know somebody in Colombia, he survived 7 airplane crashes, a pilot. And he died when a bicycle hit him and he fell over and knocked his head on the side of the road. There he died, but the airplane crash, he survived. So it's a relative world, no? But to be afraid in such a way is actually having no faith in the Supreme. Instead of being afraid, always chant the holy name, always be connected with the Absolute, and you will be in a safe situation. If death is going to come, well, let it come. Die gracefully, chanting, imploring His grace. Don't run around being afraid, because it doesn't help you. Death's going to come anyway. Next question. Do you want to keep all your belongings and are afraid to lose them? It's pretty much as one of the previous ones. But we are attached to our belongings and we forget that we're going to lose all of them. This is also something to be considered by those who are living in the relative world. I, me, mine, all is gone in any second. Better you approach the infinite and remember that what you can take with you only is your own consciousness. So we have to cultivate that. That is the process of OIDA, to prepare our consciousness, to be aware of our faith, to be thankful for our faith, to share our faith, to not be embarrassed about our faith, to deepen our faith, to deepen the knowledge about the origin of our faith, to approach the infinite, the absolute, beyond time and space, with every instrument possible for me in my relative situation I am now in. And to be very strong against all those type of concepts which describe life as meaningless, hopeless, and only have proposals to entertain ourselves on the way to our own destruction. Something like Boccaccio de Cameron, everything is finished, now let's have an orgy until the ordeal of material existence has come to an end. Next question. Are you afraid a religious symbol could give you inauspiciousness if you ignore it? Religious symbols, yantras, mandalas, the Om, Christians, crosses. So many religious symbols exists here. Practically every religious tradition has symbols. So sometimes these symbols are related. Like when I see an Om sign, I feel happiness. It gives me joy. So if I ignore something which I have some faith connection to, then it's a kind of an apparat, because actually the religious symbol represents a meditation, a focus, a divine focus. Of course, you can see a tree also as somebody to remind you of God, and the sun and the moon. So there's much more to it than just the symbols. Are you allowed to think of God or not by seeing? Or do you feel, like in this case the question is put, have you learned about something but you're not living up to the standard, and therefore when you see it, it reminds you and you feel my life is becoming inauspicious by ignoring it. So we should think very carefully if the religious elements in life are ignored by us or not. Because if we are afraid, so means we are ignoring our Shraddha, our inborn faith. And we should cultivate that. We should take anything which helps us to go further in our spiritual path. But we should not be traumatized. Like, for example, sometimes we may also be traumatized in the sense that we feel, oh, if I don't submit to this religious institution, then I go to hell, because that's the way they have been teaching the people. Well, that is not very helpful. That is a consideration here. We should utilize the external forms for the approach to the absolute. But we should not be enamored and overly infatuated with the forms or the institutions, because they often also enter into crisis. And we have to know how to deal with that crisis. So we should not be afraid of the external part. We should only be afraid to be sincere inside of us. That is the sum and substance of this consideration. The next question is, are you afraid of your own faith? You believe something. Can you believe in it? Are you afraid that you believe something? Should you be careful and avoid believing anything? If you're approaching the infinite and you have faith in the infinite, then you should simply put it into the hands of the infinite by your prayer to guide you appropriately. That is being explained in the prayer of Lord Rama. In the Ramayana it says, my Lord, I don't know who you are, I don't know where you are, but since you are the Lord, I'm pretty sure you're going to listen what I'm saying. I am today giving my life over to you. Now it's up to you to guide me from within, to recognize what you want me to do and what you don't want me to do. I, from my side, promise you that I will avoid and not do what I feel in my heart I'm not supposed to do, and I will do what I feel in my heart I'm supposed to do. Then it says in the next shloka, whoever prays in that spirit, from that moment on he will be guided by the Lord. The Lord will help him to understand the things properly. So it's a mystical thing. And when you're approaching the infinite, the absolute, you don't have to be afraid of your face. You will be guided by your face. Your face will give you strength. But when you're in the relative world, you also have faith. You have faith in money. You have faith in your job. You have faith in your wife. You have so many types of faith. And often those faiths turn out to be a big cheat, a big failure. So, in the material mundane consideration, you should be quite afraid about the different types of convictions you have, and you should question and analyze and find out. But then again, as long as you're in the relative world, you cannot expect anything absolute anyway, save and except if it's coming from the absolute and you have the sincere approach to it. Everything else will remain in the relative world. Even in the relative world, many people speak about religion, but they don't mean religion, they mean money. So then they will not give you love, and they will give you not enlightenment. But even though the vocabulary sounds mystical, but it's money, fame, name, and this and that. So it's very important to understand that the real thing shines by its own light, and the real seeker will see that light. Next question. Are you afraid to be cheated by your partner without any indication that he may cheat you? Like people are jealous. They fear my partner is going to go with somebody else. So they're always afraid. This is something coming from the relative world. Because in approaching the absolute, you can tell if somebody is not faithful to me, it simply means he wasn't meant to be with me. I wasn't meant to give my energy and time to that person. If I'm dealing properly with a person and that person cannot appreciate it and he doesn't want to be with me, then I don't have to lament that I don't have to waste more time with that person. Even though a certain sadness will be with me, because I always want to be helping others, and even those who reject me, I still want to be their well-wishers because I am nobody. But in the relative world, yes, we are afraid, but if we are too afraid and we don't trust our partners, then also we cannot have any type of positive relationships. So therefore, we should understand that in the material world, every action and reaction and all this is created by our karma. If we get a partner which is not faithful to us, that will also be our karma. So it's not good to hostigate or to make people feel suspicious, mistrusted if they haven't given any reason to you. I've seen many marriages break apart because the person is so jealous, even though the other person didn't do anything and actually loves the other person. But being distrusted is such a painful thing that they preferred not to live with the other person anymore because they didn't want to be distrusted. Oh, you think I don't love you? What do you think? Every time I'm not in front of your eyes, I'll be doing something, fooling around with other person. Is that the way you estimate my degree of fidelity and faithfulness to you? This is a kind of an unbearable thing. So people should be very careful about this. You can see being afraid can go in your favor, it can go against you. It is something very complex. We have to study the situation of fear with the help of other spiritual elements such as trust, such as love, such as goodness, such as spiritual guidance, and many other things. In this way we can understand how faith is actually our connection with the higher reality, and that fear is something which is protecting us. Fear and doubt. And sometimes we have to fear the fear and doubt the doubt. In this way, by the inner guidance and the enlightenment coming from the hearts, from the spiritual master inside of us, we will find our way out of this material illusion and gain access and shelter in the land of divine love. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Maharaj ki jai.